good. Actually, no, let's not start quite yet. Let me live stream it and get the go ahead from everybody else before we get started. I will give you the thumbs up when we are ready to go.
Excuse me, Your Honor, is there any way we could get a clarification on how the names are supposed to be written?
I can help you with that. I think as long as it has your actual name, your can you guys not hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, hang on. Sorry, had the live stream going. Yes, I think just have your real name and then what you're playing and your coding, please.
Thank you.
And if you guys have more than one in the room, you can kind of change that as you go. It's not do or die, but it's helpful. All right, bear with us. We had a couple of courtroom monitors not show up, so we've got some courtrooms not started. All right.
Now, I saw something that came through in the chat. Is that the roster?
Yes, that is the roster. All right, Judge Cabral, you guys can get going. You are good to go.
Okay, thank you. I'm Judge Cabral, and I'm going to go ahead and I believe that all of our scoring panelists here have looked through that there's not a conflict of interest of any sort. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and read the Code of Ethical Conduct. Team members, please raise your right hands. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of mock trial competition? Witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and general procedures of the mock trial competition? And if I could just have a yes from all of you, I know you're muted. If you could unmute and say yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now to our gallery members, including teachers, attorney coaches, family members and friends, and others that have logged in to watch, please raise your right hands. And do you promise to represent yourselves as positive role models and to behave in a manner that exemplifies ethical and professional sportsmanship during and after this mock trial ring? And scoring panelists, please raise your right hands and unmute, of course. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition?
Yes, Your Honor.
I do, Your Honor.
All right, with that, let's get started. Who do we have as counsel for the plaintiff?
Your Honor, Leah Dino, I am the head attorney for the plaintiff side on Jim.
Okay. And who do we have here entry of appearance for the defense?
Your Honor, I'm Sydney Favetti, and I am the lead attorney for the defense.
Thank you. Are both sides ready to proceed to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
In defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then let's get started. The plaintiff, do you have an opening statement you would like to present?
Your Honor, would you like us to do some brief introductions before we proceed and then preliminary matters?
That would be great.
Good morning, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Leah Dino, and today I will be conducting the direct examination of Dakota Weirs, the cross-examination of Skylar Weirs, and delivering the closing arguments. At this time, may my co-counsel please introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Markle. I will be conducting the direct examination of Carson Durst, the cross-examination of Blake Doncourt, as well as delivering the opening statement.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Braden Stewart. I'll be conducting the direct examination of Dr. Casey Rogers and the cross-examination of Dr. Devin Williams. At this time, may the plaintiff witnesses please introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Octavia Gomez, and I am Dakota Weirs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Ella Damon, and I am Carson Durst.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Maisie Bogich, and I am Dr. Casey Rogers.
Your Honor, at this time, the plaintiff has some preliminary matters.
Please proceed with those preliminary matters.
Yes, Your Honor, we ask that stipulated facts be entered into evidence and constructively be read to the jury. We've confirmed that all witnesses have the exhibits in front of them, so we ask that exhibits do not be shared on screen until they've been admitted. And then when they are admitted, they be constructively published to the jury. I apologize, Your Honor. I think you're muted.
So the first two, those two shall be granted.
In closing argument, we ask that all time remaining is reserved for rebuttal.
We will address that at the time. If you could, again, remind us once we move on to closing arguments at that time.
Yes, Your Honor. And finally, we ask the jury is constructively given jury instructions before closing arguments begin.
Yes, of course.
Those
And
are all.
I assume that there are no objections from any of those from the defense.
No, Your Honor.
Any other matters?
No, Your Honor.
And from the defense, are there any preliminary matters that you would like to bring up?
Your Honor, we ask that we can do brief interruptions really quickly before we continue.
Of course.
Thank
Please
you.
proceed.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury. My name is Asia Hallbeck, and I'll be providing the cross-examination of Dakota Wares and the direct examination of Blake Doncourt. My witness would now like to introduce himself.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, my name is Christopher Cooper, and I am Blake Doncourt.
My co-counsel would now like to introduce themselves.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury. My name is Caleb Robertson. I'll be providing the opening statement for the defense, the cross-examination of Carson Durst, and direct examination of Skylar Weirs. My witness will now like to introduce themselves.
Your Honor, my name is Josie Hansen, and I am Skylar Weirs.
My co-counsel will now like to introduce themselves.
Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, my name is Sydney Pavetti, and I will be providing the closing argument for the defense, as well as conducting the cross-examination of Dr. Casey Rogers and the direct examination of Dr. Devin Williams. My witness would now like to introduce herself.
Your Honor, my name is Sierra Bourne, and I am Dr. Devin Williams.
Are there more introductions, or are we all finished with the introductions?
No, Your Honor, we are all done.
Are there any preliminary matters from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
May we proceed at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm going to ask the prosecution to begin. If you have an opening statement, to present such.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Markle. Along with my co-counsel, I represent the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs. Dakota Weirs has cancer. At just 20 years old, her life is essentially ruined. She should be in college working toward her dream of becoming a concert pianist, but instead she's in a courtroom in Denver trying to get justice for what the Lush Fertilizer Company did to her. Ms. Weirs will tell you that at age 14, she started working for a landscaping company to make money for school. She worked with fertilizers, including one manufactured and sold by Lush, containing a chemical called Drufo. Dakota Weirs didn't know it at the time, but Drufo was dangerous, and her exposure to Drufo caused non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a cancer of the lymph system. You will hear about the symptoms of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Ms. Weirs is in constant pain. She has no energy, and she can't play the piano. Piano was her greatest joy. She started playing when she was young alongside her beloved grandfather. As she got older, her talent really emerged. She even earned a scholarship to Juilliard, the most prestigious music school in the country. But then she got sick and she couldn't accept her scholarship. In fact, you will hear she's not able to do much of anything. She's depressed. She's anxious. She has lost all hope. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cannot be cured. So, where does Lush Fertilizer fit in? Lush's greed kills. The testimony will show that when it came time to test Drufo for safety, Lush decided to prioritize their profits instead of the lives of their users. You will hear from Carson Durst, a former employee of Lush. She will tell you Lush knew there is a connection between Drufo and cancer, and if they didn't know, they should have. There were red flags everywhere. Carson Durst's own research uncovered a study showing an increased risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, especially in young developing animals. Other researchers at Lush raised concerns about cancer in humans, but Lush deliberately ignored the evidence. And as soon as Ms. Durst raised concerns about the safety of Drufo, she was marginalized and given poor performance reviews. You will also hear from Dr. Casey Rogers. She did her own study on Drufo and found that workers with prolonged exposure were 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with cancer. Lush's witnesses will suggest Lush didn't really know Drufo was dangerous. Blake Doncourt, Lush's CEO, will testify the studies weren't conclusive. Devin Williams will say the increased risk isn't statistically significant. Dakota Weirs' twin Skylar Weirs will also testify. Although Skylar Weirs purports to be an expert in Drufo, she is not. She's a part-time magazine writer, not a scientist. She will say she doesn't know of any study proving a link between Drufo and cancer with certainty. Listen carefully to this testimony because you will hear a lot of words like certainty and inconclusive. But the court will instruct you at the end of this case that absolute certainty is not the standard. All the plaintiff must prove is that Lush knew or should have known its product was dangerous and that it did not use reasonable care to warn its users. Lush didn't use reasonable care. All Lush had to do was put a label on the fertilizer saying, warning, use of this product may cause cancer. Follow precautions. A simple, reasonable step to keep users safe. Lush didn't do that. We will show you the label that Lush did use. It has generic recommendations about wearing a mask and long sleeve clothing. There is nothing on that label that would warn users about the actual risks they were taking. There is another way Lush could have kept its users safe. You will hear about a process called baking, which eliminates the risks from Drufo. Lush decided against baking Drufo because it cost too much money, and Lush decided to pay off its investors instead. Lush fertilizer's greed kills people. Plaintiff must prove its claims by a preponderance of the evidence, which simply means more likely than not. After hearing all the evidence, there will be only one reasonable conclusion. Lush was negligent by failing to properly warn its users of the dangers of Drufo. Greed kills. We ask that you find in favor of Ms. Weirs and award her the amount that will compensate her for the damages that Lush has caused. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the defense have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. Today we are here because the plaintiff developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. We feel for the plaintiff and understand her need to blame someone. But we will show you that assumption that Lush Products is responsible for her sickness is just not factual. Where are the facts? Facts, not assumptions. Lush Fertilizer has created environmentally sound products and gone out of its way to test those products to make sure they are safe. They are an environmental company and donate to charities. Their products are known worldwide and meet all legal safety standards. Through our witnesses, you'll see that these are facts. Today, you will hear from Lush Fertilizer's CEO, Blake Doncourt, the extent to which he and his company go to keep their products safe. He will note the suggested precautions, PPE, the users of his product need to wear to ensure their safety. We will also hear Doncourt explain why baking the fertilizer was not necessary to meet safety standards. Blake will also bring up that he, as a CEO, has not seen a study that included a negative impact from Lush products on humans or the environment. We'll hear Skylar Weirs, an expert defense witness and sibling of the plaintiff, that in her own research, she found other pesticides to be known carcinogens, and how Lush voids these pesticides by using the product Drufo. She will give you facts about what Drufo does and the positive effects Drufo can have on the environment. Dr. Devin Williams will explain the fact that Drufo is banned in other countries because the nitrate levels, not because of a causal link with cancer. She will give her own explanation and research about the Dr. Casey Rogers study. She will outline the differences between the average person using the product and a farm laborer using the product. We will show you the assumptions made in the plaintiff's case today. First, through the plaintiff, we will show you how she assumed Lush products gave her cancer merely because her twin does not have cancer. We will prove that Drufo in Lush products is not the carcinogen she claims it is. Carson Durst, a plaintiff witness and former employee of Lush, makes assumptions about links with studies with rats and humans. She will make assumptions that Lush doctored its studies to make Drufo look good. She admits she lacks the data and connections with the research team to have solid facts. So she assumes there's a causal link between Drufo and cancer. The facts of this case will not fulfill her claims. The burden of proof in today's case is solely on the plaintiff. They must prove a preponderance of evidence that 1, the defendant manufactured a fertilizer product containing the chemical compound known as Drufo. 2, the defendant was negligent by failing to exercise with reasonable care to prevent the product from creating an unreasonable risk of harm to persons who might be reasonably expected to use the product in a manner the defendant might have reasonably expected. 3, the plaintiff was one of those persons the defendant might have reasonably expected to use the product. And 4, the plaintiff had damages that were caused with the defendant's negligence, while the product was being used in a manner the defendant should have reasonably expected. If you find that any one or more of these 4 statements have not been proved, then your verdict must be for the defendant. In other words, where are the facts? We ask you to listen carefully to the plaintiff's case today and separate the assumptions from facts. We believe the facts of this case will lead you to find Lush Products is not responsible for the plaintiff's cancer or financial damages. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. For the plaintiff, are you ready to present your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Dakota Weirs.
Weirs, do I need to swear in the witness?
I don't
Or is
believe
it-
so, Your Honor.
Okay, then please proceed.
Good afternoon. Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
My name is Dakota Weirs, Weirs.
How old are you, Ms. Weirs?
I'm 20 years old.
And you are the plaintiff in this case, correct?
Yes, I am.
Can you briefly explain to the jury why you are suing Lush Fertilizer?
I'm suing Lush Fertilizer because I have cancer, and it's called non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and it's a type of blood cancer. And I believe that it was Lush Fertilizer's product that caused this cancer because of a chemical called Drufo that's in their product.
Now let's go back and talk about your exposure to Lush. How were you first exposed?
Well, I worked at this local landscaping company called Havens, and I worked there as a landscaping technician for about 4 years.
And as a landscaping technician, what did your job entail?
Well, I mainly just spread the seeds and the fertilizers, and I ended up using the fertilizers both indoors and outdoors.
And when you were using the fertilizer, did you ever glance at the label on the product?
Yes, I did.
And on that label, did you see a warning that long-term use could cause cancer?
No, that's the funny thing. There was no warning about how Lush fertilizer could cause cancer, and that's because Lush doesn't care.
Ms. Weirs, when did you first become ill?
I became sick right before I was about to go to college, and I had no idea what was happening to me.
What sort of symptoms were you having?
Well, I was losing a lot of weight, and my lymph nodes are always really swollen, and I was in and out of the hospital, and most of all, I'm just so tired.
How has the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma affected your life?
How hasn't it affected my life? Everything I've ever known has been turned upside down. I mean, I can't work, I can't volunteer at my old homeless shelter, and I can't even go to Juilliard anymore. And even if I do go into remission, my life will never be the same.
You were planning on going to Juilliard?
Yes, I was, but I had to turn down my scholarship.
What'd you receive a scholarship for?
Well, I played the piano basically my whole life. My grandfather was my main inspiration, and well, I'm sorry. After he died, I began taking the piano a lot more seriously, and
Piano was everything to me.
Ms. Weirs, I understand that this must be difficult for you. Are you hopeful that you're going to get better?
My doctors are hopeful, I guess, but they have to tell me that. But they're not the ones who have spent 2 years in a living hell. So no, I don't have any hope of getting better because I'm not getting any better. I'm scared.
What emotional effect has this cancer had on your life?
I'm depressed and I'm scared. I mean, my life from now on is completely uncertain.
How do you believe that you've been damaged?
I believe that I've been emotionally damaged. I mean, my life is ruined.
When did you first become concerned that it was your exposure to Drufo that caused your cancer?
Well, I was sitting on the couch watching TV, like I always do these days, and I saw a story about these hidden documents that contained that Drufo could actually cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's pretty important.
What'd you do after you saw that news segment?
Well, first I called my dad to tell him what I had seen on TV, and then I reached out to my old boss at Havens to confirm that I had used Lush fertilizer while I was working at Havens, since Lush fertilizer contains Drufo.
And after talking to your boss, did you see a picture of the Lush fertilizer packaging?
Yes, I did.
And this was the same packaging from when you worked at Haven?
Yes, it was.
Ms. Weirs, could you please turn your attention to Exhibit 1? What is this?
This is the label from Lush fertilizer that I used while I worked at Havens.
And this is the photo that you received from your boss?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, we move to enter Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Is there an objection or request for voir dire from the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Proceed. The item shall be admitted as Exhibit 1 for the plaintiff.
Ms. Weirs, can you read the ingredients on the label?
It says active ingredients: Drufo, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, iron, and other ingredients.
Objection cumulative.
Is there a response?
Yes, Your Honor. The witness is reading the ingredients on the label to clarify that Drufo is an ingredient of Lush fertilizer. There has been no prior testimony to the other ingredients or the percentage they take up of the product.
Is there a response?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, if I may, the jury is perfectly capable of reading this label and seeing that Drufo is an active ingredient in this label.
The objection will be granted. The writing shall suffice. However, you may continue with your questions.
Ms. Weirs, is there anything on this label about the dangers of long-term use?
No, there's not even the word warning here on the label.
Does it say anything about cancer?
No, the worst thing that it says is that it causes eye irritation.
Thank you. That'll be all for Exhibit 1 screen sharing. Now, Ms. Weirs, you previously mentioned your relationship with your grandfather. What's your relationship like with other family members?
Well, my twin sister Skylar is actually testifying against me today.
What's your relationship like with Skylar?
Well, I mean,
Relevance.
Is there a response?
Yes, Your Honor. This testimony goes directly to the credibility of Skylar Weirs and her motive to testify. Under Rule 608, the credibility of a witness is always relevant and may be attacked.
Is there a response?
Yes, Your Honor. If I may, the credibility of Skylar can be attacked during her direct and cross-examination, does not necessarily need to be brought up during the direct examination of Dakota Weirs.
Given that that is accurate, counsel, how would we go about getting this information when Ms. Weir is on the testifying on the witness stand?
Your Honor, the credibility of Skylar can be attacked during her voir dire as she is an expert witness.
For the purpose of time, I'm going to allow this on a limited basis. Please proceed.
Ms. Weirs, what's your relationship like with your twin sister?
Well, of course I love Skylar. I mean, we're twins, but and as of recently, we've kind of had a tumultuous relationship because Skylar is angry that my father is paying for my medical bills.
Do you know what your sister does for a living?
Skylar calls herself a journalist, but she's also a part-time server at a restaurant.
And as a journalist, do you know what kind of articles she writes?
Skylar will write on a range of topics, ranging from UFOs to the flat earth theory and even anti-vax culture.
And from your knowledge, does Skylar Weirs have any financial troubles?
I'm aware that Skylar has extensive gambling debts.
Your Honor, I'd like to renew my objection of relevance.
And is there a response, please?
Yes, Your Honor. It is the plaintiff's belief that Skylar Weirs has financial motive to testify today in court due to extreme gambling debts. Again, under Rule 608, any witness may attack the credibility or the motive of another. We are using this testimony from Dakota Weirs to understand her perspective on why her sister is testifying. We will again bring this up in the cross-examination of Skylar Weirs. However, it is important to get Dakota Weirs' perspective.
Any response?
Your Honor, I'd just like to reiterate, this can all be brought up on voir dire of Skylar as she is an expert in her potential financial bias or questioning whether her work is supported or not can once again be brought up during her cross-examination. Does not necessarily need to be brought up with Dakota.
I'm going to grant the objection. I think we are getting a little further off of track. The witness did testify that there were some financial issues going into gambling debts. I think we're going too far off the rails. Please proceed.
Ms. Weirs, what damages are you seeking from Lush Fertilizer?
I'm not asking for Lush Fertilizer to pay for my medical bills or for any lost job opportunities I may have lost in the future. But all I want is justice for me, and I want to prevent Lush from hurting anyone else. Lush's greed killed my dreams, my hopes, and my dignity. And I'm terrified because I know my prognosis isn't promising, even though my doctors have hope. But you can't put a price on hope and the loss of my dreams. And so that is why I'm asking Lush for $2,615,553 in emotional damages.
Why that amount, Ms. Weirs?
That's the amount that Lush pocketed instead of baking the Drufo, which would have eliminated any cancerous effects.
Objection
Would have-
placed on evidence.
A response?
Yes, Your Honor, there will be testimony on this exact amount. We expect Mr. Duncourt to testify, or if the court would prefer, I can give an offer of proof.
As far as there will be additional witnesses testifying as to your request for damages?
Yes.
Or as to where they come from?
Yes, so the request for damages, that specific amount, $2,615,533, that is the direct amount that it would have cost Lush Fertilizer to bake the Drufo. That's going to be entered as an exhibit later on, and there will also be testimony from Blake Duncourt.
I believe that the question was rather, how much was her emotional damages worth? So I'm going to grant the objection. Let's move forward.
Ms. Weirs, how has the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma changed your life?
It's destroyed my life. My life is ruined, and I have no hope anymore. And right now, I'm just waiting and sitting here waiting to die.
Thank you. Ms. Weirs, no further questions.
The witness may step down.
Can I have a cross-examination of this witness?
I completely apologize. Yes, of course.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hello, Dakota. I'm so sorry about your condition, and we truly do feel for you. But if you may, I'm going to ask you a few questions. You worked for a landscaping company known as Haven Landscaping, correct?
Yes, I worked as a landscaping technician there for about 4 years.
And you use several different types of fertilizers and lawn chemicals, correct?
Well, yes, I did. I used an assortment of fertilizers and seeds while I worked there.
If you could you please refer to Exhibit 1? And Your Honor, if I may, can my co-counsel share Exhibit 1 on the computer screen for the jury to see?
Of course, please proceed.
Dakota, Exhibit 1 fairly depicts what the label of a Lush fertilizer product looked like while you were working with it, correct?
It's Miss Weir's, and yes.
Yes, my apologies. The different fertilizers you used had similar chemicals to the ones depicted on this label, correct?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
My apologies. The different fertilizers you used had similar chemicals to the ones depicted on this label, did they not?
I'm sorry, that's not in my witness statement. Would you like me to answer?
Objection, Your Honor. This assumes facts, non-evidence.
Is there a response?
Yes, Your Honor. Dakota Weirs has already testified she used various different types of lawn chemicals and fertilizers, and lawn chemicals and fertilizers have very similar ingredients to the ones in Lush fertilizer.
I will allow it on a limited basis. Well, actually, let me, is there a response?
Yes, Your Honor. So we don't actually have the labels or the exact ingredients of any of these other fertilizers that opposing counsel is mentioning. Therefore, we cannot compare this label from Lush fertilizer to the other fertilizers if we don't have their ingredients. That would substantially, the prejudicial effect of that would outweigh the probative, as we don't actually have the ingredients to compare.
While I do agree that the best evidence would be brought into court today, the witness, I believe, testified that she is familiar with the ingredients of other items. I will allow, on a limited basis, let's not go too far off, and let's tailor our questions closely to this and move forward. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. So just to clarify, Ms. Weirs, you're saying you could have gotten your cancer from a different fertilizer?
No, I know that I must have gotten my cancer from Lush fertilizer because of the ingredient Drufo, which is in their product.
Let's talk more about what else is on this exhibit. Are you aware of the safety recommendation label that is on this exhibit?
Yes, the user safety recommendations.
Yes, that would be it. You're also aware that on this label, it has a section labeled hazards?
Yes, but all it says is that causes eye irritation to avoid contact with eyes of clothing.
Ms. Weirs, I believe right above that, it says to keep out of the reach of children, yes?
Yes.
And you stated in your witness statement that you were 14 years old when you started working at Haven, correct?
Yes, I was.
Which, isn't that below the legal majority age?
Well, I suppose I was a minor when I started working at Haven Landscaping, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, so just to clarify, that means technically speaking, you were a child when you used this product?
Yes, I was a child. I was 14 years old, so I was a teenager, but I did know how to use the Lush fertilizer appropriately, if that's what you mean.
Once again, just to clarify, in fact, the entire time you actually worked at Haven, you were below the legal majority age?
Well, I worked there for about 4 years, so my last year I would have been 18.
Okay, so once again, let's just say 3 years in that case. The entire time you used that product, within 3 years, you were a child?
Objection, Your Honor. This is cumulative. This question has been asked and answered, and the fact that Ms. Weirs was a minor has been reiterated multiple times.
Your Honor, I can move on if you'd like.
Yes, please.
So just a clarifying question, you decide to ignore the biggest hazard on this label the entirety of your time at Haven Landscaping?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. It says keep out of reach of children, but my boss allowed me to work with this product.
Okay, I'll just move on. Let's talk a little bit more about specifically the safety recommendation label. At the time, you were aware that it says to wear protective clothing that covers exposed skin while using the product, yes?
Yes.
And you didn't wear protective clothing that covers exposed skin while using the product?
No, I didn't. Mainly because, see, I worked in the summertime and it was really hot outside, and none of my other adult coworkers were wearing any protective gear, so I followed their example. I had no idea what I was exposing myself to.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. But just to clarify, you were supposed to wear long sleeves, pants, and gloves while you used the fertilizer.
Yes, but it was never enforced, and this careless label just says that it causes eye irritation, which frankly is the same side effects that an onion would have. And so I didn't see it necessary to wear protective gear.
I understand that, Ms. Suarez. Let's talk a little bit more about the other fertilizers and chemicals you used. These other fertilizers had warnings, correct?
That's not in my witness statement. Would you like me to answer that?
Objection, Your Honor. I'd like to re-raise my past objection to facts, not in evidence. We have nothing to reference what these labels actually said, as they have not been admitted.
Response?
Your Honor, I believe this actually is in Ms. Weir's statement that these other fertilizers had warnings.
Are you able to locate a page number on that statement?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe it would be line 90 and 91 of Dakota Weir's witness statement.
Is there a response?
Yes, Your Honor. It is in Ms. Weir's witness statement that the other labels had warnings and there was a presence of the warnings. I have no objection to a question being asked for the fact of their existence. I am just objecting to her having to testify on the specifics of these warnings, as again, we don't actually have the evidence or the labels of the products.
All right. At this time, I'm going to go. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Your Honor, if I may, I don't believe, and maybe it was a clarification issue on my part. I believe my exact question was these other fertilizers had warnings. I was just asking for clarification from Ms. Weir's that these other fertilizers did indeed have warnings.
So be it. It sounds as though we have a stipulation that these other fertilizers did in fact have warnings. Is that correct of the parties?
Yes.
Okay, please proceed.
And these other warnings, they directed you to wear a mask or eye covering, right?
Well, some of them would have instructions as to whether I should use the product indoors or outdoors, and some did say, advise me to wear protective gear.
But you often did not follow these warnings, correct?
Well, it was really hot outside, and none of my other coworkers are wearing it. And specifically with the Lush fertilizer, there's no warning here on this label, and I didn't see it necessary to have to wear protective gear.
Thank you, Ms. Wears. You were also always told to wear face coverings when you were working with chemicals?
Yes, an N95 mask, but if the Lush fertilizer only causes eye irritation, I don't see why I would need to wear an N95 mask, because it doesn't cover your eyes unless Lush knew that their product could cause something else that they didn't decide to share with everyone.
Let's talk a little bit about your coworkers. You mentioned that your coworkers didn't follow these safety recommendations either, right?
No, it wasn't enforced, and none of my coworkers really followed the rules.
So just to clarify, they also wore shorts and short sleeve shirts, correct?
Yes, it was in the summertime. So.
Okay, so Ms. Wears, if everybody wore shorts and short sleeve shirts, why is it that you're the only one to be reported with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Well, I mean, I'm one to respect my my coworkers' constitutional right to privacy, but I'm sure you already know that because you are an expert in law.
Thank you, Ms. Wears. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a redirect?
Very briefly, Your Honor, Ms. Wears, did Haven stop using Lush fertilizer after your 3rd or 4th year on the job?
Yes, they did.
So were the other employees at Haven exposed to Lush the same amount that you were?
No, they weren't.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. No further questions.
And based on those questions, is there a recross?
Yes, Your Honor, just one question. Ms. Weirs, you said that your other employees were older than you, correct?
Yes, most of them were adults.
So they actually would have used Lush fertilizer roughly the same amount that you would have?
Well, my boss at Havens stopped working with Lush fertilizer after the 3rd or 4th year on the job. And I worked with Lush fertilizer my entire career there at Havens. So no, my coworkers probably would not have been exposed to Lush fertilizer as long as I was.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. May this witness be excused. If so, the plaintiff may call their next witness.
Plaintiff calls Carson Durst.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Ms. Durst. Can you please state your first name and spell your last for the court?
My name is Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
And what is your occupation?
Well, I'm the lead product developer for Terrace Greenery.
What education have you received?
I got my bachelor's in chemical engineering from Arizona State University.
Are you familiar with the defendant, Lush Fertilizer?
I am. I used to work for them.
When did you begin working for Lush Fertilizer?
Fresh out of college, that would have been June 2003.
Do you know who founded Lush?
I do. Blake Doncourt, Mr. Environmental. Hey, I'm all about saving the environment, but if it's at the cost of people's lives, that's where I draw the line, and that's why I'm here today.
Do you know the Doncourt family personally?
I do. The Doncourts for a time were like the family I never had. Charlie, Blake's son, and I were best friends. They drove me to every soccer game. I was always at their lake house and even there for Sunday night dinners. That was until just like that.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Response.
Yes, Your Honor. The relevance of Blake Doncourt's relationship with Carson Durst is directly relevant to this case, as Blake Doncourt is the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, and because of this, Carson Durst and their relationship, because Carson Durst, the further evidence will show that Carson Durst brought evidence to Blake Doncourt in the future, and their relationship in this case regarding this future evidence is directly relevant.
Response.
Yes, Your Honor. The relationship between Carson and the Doncourts is relevant. However, what Carson did with the Doncourt family in their childhood is not relevant.
I'm going to allow the questioning to continue. This does seem as though it may be helpful to the jury and would be relevant, especially as far as establishing how and long the relationship was. But let's move forward. Thank you.
Ms. Durst, how did you first start working with Lush?
Well, me and Charlie were talking in our dorm room right before graduation. And I was looking for a job, right, as I was a senior graduating. And he mentioned that there were internship opportunities at Lush, and I applied and I was hired.
What year was this?
2003.
Were you ever promoted after getting hired?
I was promoted shortly after the 3 months.
And what was your new title?
I was now a product development engineer.
All right, Ms. Durst, what is DRUFO?
Well, DRUFO is a bonding agent in many of Lush's fertilizers. It helps keep fertilizer intact and preserved.
Do you know when this chemical was first introduced into the fertilizer market?
2001 is when it was introduced to Lush, and when I arrived at Lush in 2003, that was when it was in its testing stages.
Do you know whether Lush performed any in-house studies on the chemical?
Yes, 2 in-house studies were performed about Lush. This was a large part of my job, so I was involved in both.
Were these studies a regular practice conducted at Lush?
Absolutely.
And did you keep records of your findings?
I did. Every researcher puts their analysis into a lab notebook, and that's what I did.
And as a researcher, what were you specifically tasked with doing?
Well, I was tasked with researching one chemical compound found in Drufo.
Did you find any studies discussing the safety of the chemical?
You know, I did. I found an English study, and it was studying whether Drufo was carcinogenic in rats.
After you found that study, did you put it in your notebook?
I did.
Could you direct your attention to Exhibit 3 in front of you?
I can.
What is Exhibit 3?
Well, this is a copy of the English study that I put in my lab notebook.
Is this a true and accurate copy of the English study you documented?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, plaintiff offers Exhibit 3.
Is there an objection?
Yes, Your Honor. I don't believe this exhibit is relevant as it is a study about rats, not humans.
A response?
Yes, Your Honor. Any evidence regarding Drufo's carcinogenity is relevant to this case. And the English study will show, from Carson Durst's notebook, will show that there is a carcinogenic factor of Drufo. And the further studies will show that because of this, the Lush Fertilizer Company decided to do their own study based off of this research on humans as well. So this preliminary study that Carson Durst found and documented in her notebook regarding the carcinogenity on rats is directly relevant.
Defense, did you want to do any voir dire or otherwise regarding this study?
No, Your Honor. I just want to make sure for the jury that this study is about rats and conclusions are about rats and not humans.
I will allow it. Please proceed. So the objection is denied.
All right, Ms. Durst, in the title and introduction, it referenced nitrogen phosphorus carbonate. Was this the chemical you studied?
Yes.
Is this also the chemical found in Drufo?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Durst, what conclusions did the study conclude about nitrogen phosphorus carbonate?
Well, the English study concluded that there was in fact a link between being exposed by Drufo and carcinogenic effects. In fact, early on exposure and in fetal life from Drufo increased the carcinogenity.
Were there any occupations that were more prone to exposure to this chemical?
Well, yes, any occupation that works hands-on with the fertilizer would have been susceptible to these effects, such as landscaping.
Is there anything else you found?
The leukemias and lymphomas cases increased as Drufo exposure increased. And this is extremely concerning with one of Lush's products.
Do you know whether anyone else at Lush reviewed your notebook?
Well, how it works at Lush is that after all analysis of each researcher has been completed, it's all compiled into one single report. And this report goes to upper management. I would hope that if Lush were doing their job, they would have seen this notebook and they would have been aware about how dangerous Drufo could be.
Who is the supervisor that generally reviewed your notebook?
This would have been Jerry Langley. She was my direct supervisor, and it would have been her job to look at this study.
Were there any other studies performed by Lush on the safety of Drufo?
Yes, there was a second in-house study following this one.
Did you ever receive instructions or directions about what you're to look for in the study?
You know, I did. I got an email from Jerry Langley, and it included all the details of the second in-house study.
Can you direct your attention to Exhibit 4 in front of you, please? What is Exhibit 4?
Well, this is the exact copy of the email I received regarding the second in-house study.
Is this a true and accurate copy of the email you received?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, plaintiff offers Exhibit 4.
Is there an objection?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe this document is hearsay.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. This email was written by Lush Fertilizer or a representative, which makes the email an admission of a party opponent under Rule 801 D2A. Therefore, it is not hearsay.
This is an email from the actual company?
This is an email from Jerry Langley, who is a direct supervisor of Carson Durst, and therefore is an email from a representative of the company. Yes.
Response? Response from the defense?
No.
No, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it in finding that it is not a hearsay document, but rather a document that's being held or used in regular business settings. Thank you.
Alrighty. Ms. Durst, look at the distribution list. Is Blake Doncourt listed in the recipients?
Yes, there he is.
Objection cumulative.
Response?
Your Honor, this is not cumulative. We are just, I'm just asking Ms. Durst to ensure that Blake Doncourt's name is in the recipients list and to pronounce that to the jury. This is not cumulative.
I will allow it. Objection denied. Please proceed.
All right. Ms. Durst, I'd like you to read a specific provision of Exhibit 4, and I'll highlight it for you. Can you read that for me as I highlight it?
Yes, absolutely. Following our lab's June Drufo study, concerns have arisen regarding generalized findings of potential carcinogenic.
Your Honor,
quality.
I renew my objection of cumulative.
Respond, please.
Yes, Your Honor, this is not cumulative. This is a long exhibit, simply making it easier for the jury to understand Ms. Durst's testimony, and the jury can still give whatever weight they want to the exhibit, and that is why we are highlighting this specific sentence to make sure that it is not actually cumulative.
The highlighting of the sentence I understand. However, having your witness testify as to what is written in the document, how do you respond to that being cumulative?
The witness, I'm not sure I understand the objection then.
The witness is repeating what is in the document. Is that not cumulative, or is there another reason why she should testify as to what is contained within the document?
Your Honor, I don't believe that is cumulative, as she is just specifically singling out a single statement that she is going to be testifying to under further questions following this. And this sentence here will give further foundation for the questions to follow.
Any response?
Yes, Your Honor. This is repetition of the same thing that's in evidence.
All right. I agree. This is repetitive of what is within the document and exhibit that's being presented. However, it is going to be allowed as it is foundation for further questioning. So the objection is denied. Please proceed.
All right, Ms. Durst, did anything concern you about this?
Well, it was concerning that Drufo's second in-house study was regarding whether Drufo was carcinogenic in humans.
Your Honor, plaintiff offers this annotated copy of Exhibit 4 as Exhibit 4A.
Any objection to the admission of this document?
No, Your Honor.
The document will be admitted. Exhibit 4 is hereby admitted. Please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Durst, from your personal involvement, do you believe there is an agenda?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Lush wanted our research to fit in the hypothesis they created in order to keep their shiny.
Objection, Your Honor. I believe that is speculation.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. This testimony is allowed under Rule 701 as it is based on the witness's rationally based perception. It's helpful to understand her testimony and determine the issue. And finally, there is no scientific or specialized knowledge requested by this question. So therefore, it falls under the witness's rationally based perception.
Response from the defense?
No response, Your Honor.
Will be allowed. The objection will be denied. Please proceed.
Was there anything else you wanted to say, Ms. Durst, about that?
Well, Drufo was extremely important to Lush's success. I mean, it was the goose that laid the golden egg. So it seemed like from working there, they wanted our research to fit into the image and the hypothesis they created.
And when was the analysis concluded from the study?
December 2003.
And what happened next?
Well, after this, we had another staff meeting. This wasn't uncommon, and we discussed a lot of the findings.
Did anyone at the meeting express concerns about Drufo?
Yes, one researcher brought up concerns that
Objection, hearsay.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. Again, this is not hearsay under Rule 801 D2A. This is an admission of a party opponent, as this is a board meeting of Lush executives. And because of this, the members of this executive meeting are representatives of Lush, and therefore this is an admission of a party opponent.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor, that person is not here to testify today and is out of court statement.
The objection will be granted. Please proceed.
Ms. Durst, after all of this concluded, did you ever hear anything about the study?
well, I got a report a couple weeks later,
And what did this report say?
just that Drufo fit within the FDA standards, but it highly suggested baking Drufo. Baking Drufo would eliminate any possible chance of carcinogenic effects.
Do you believe that this report was completely accurate?
No, there was clearly information left out, important information.
And based on your personal knowledge, was Drufo important to Lush Fertilizer's success?
I mean, as I said, it's extremely important. It was how Lush became so successful.
Now, what happened after the report came out?
Well, coincidentally or not, right after I submitted my honest report about Drufo, my performance reviews started to tank.
Do you know why you stopped receiving choice assignments?
I know that my performance at Lush stayed consistent throughout my entire employment. I was a hardworking and loyal employee.
Did you ever talk to Mr. Doncourt about your concerns about not being treated fairly?
Yeah, I brought up concerns about within the company a couple of times, and he completely dismissed them. He clearly had bigger fish to fry, or in his case, oceans to save or something.
And what did you do after this?
Well, after this, I knew that my future wasn't really going anywhere with Lush. I mean, I was young, so I looked for other employment opportunities, and I found a job at Terra's Greenery.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Let's talk about Tara's Greenery. You joined Tara at least in part to hurt Mr. Doncourt.
Although I admit that that was part of the reason I knew it'd get Blake Scout, that was not the main reason I left Lush. I knew that I had better opportunities at Terra's.
And Tara's is actually Lush's biggest competitor.
Yes, both companies work within a fertilizer, and that is a field that I'm well specialized in. So I thought it was a good opportunity for me.
It's also true Mr. Doncourt and Lush demanded you not work for 6 months as a result of a violation of the non-compete agreement.
Yes, we have already reached a settlement between myself and Blake Doncourt within the Lush.
Objection, Your Honor. Under Rule 408, any questions regarding settlements are not admissible in court.
Response?
Your Honor, I'm merely referencing the NCA.
I will allow it on a limited basis. Please proceed.
And since you started working at Tara's, you've been developing a new fertilizer.
That's correct.
And this fertilizer goes directly against Lush's fertilizer.
I'm not sure what you mean goes directly. Both companies produce fertilizer, and I believe that through our hard work in Terra's that we will produce a successful product.
Let's talk about your knowledge. Would you agree with me that Drufo is a product exclusive to Lush fertilizer?
I'd say it's something that Lush uses in many of its fertilizers, so yes.
And that by your knowledge on in-house studies on Drufo ended when you were let go?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
By your knowledge, in-house studies on Drufo ended when you were let go?
I wouldn't really know of the studies that they conducted once I no longer work there, so I'm not sure I can answer that question.
So you cannot testify about anything Lush Fertilizer has done internally with Drufo since December 2006?
That's correct.
So over 15 years?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that is a long period of time?
I mean, I would say that I work at Terra's now, and that is my main focus. So I would say, yes, that's a long time, but it doesn't change the fact that Drufo is a very dangerous product, and Lush used it in almost all of its fertilizers. And that's why I'm here today.
In your own research, you found no studies about the effects Drufo may have on humans.
No, I was tasked with researching one chemical compound found in Drufo, and this studied a link with a particular English study that found Drufo was carcinogenic in rats.
The study in England concluded there were effects on rats.
Yes, and other animals, and it
But
was
not humans.
carcinogenic.
I apologize, but not humans.
That was not the particular study I was looking at.
The study in England was about rats and not humans, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Let's talk about job performance. You previously stated that you were being wrongfully targeted by others at Lush.
I believe that once I submitted my honest report about Lush that included the English study, it didn't fit into what they wanted me to find. And because of that, they got upset with my work.
And you said you were accused of skating along the company.
Yes, which I don't think is fair. I was a very hardworking and committed employee, which is why I was shortly promoted 3 months after.
And you said the quality of your work was being criticized.
Yes,
And you stated that this was unfair.
I don't feel like this was an accurate representation of my work at Lush.
And that you earned your position by your own merit.
Yes, I'm a very hardworking employee. I like to make sure that that's how I stand within my job. And I don't think that that was a fair representation. But like I said, I do really believe it's because my researcher didn't follow along with what they wanted me to find. And that is that Drufo is not safe.
Your Honor, I asked for the latter part of that answer be stricken from the records as it was not responsive to my question.
Response?
Could you please restate your question?
And that you earned your position by your own merit.
Your Honor, because of this question, I believe this is sufficiently broad for her to answer to her job performance and why she believes this is true.
And is there a response from the defendant?
Your Honor, I asked about her position and that she earned it by her own merit, not about anything else.
Understandable. I'm going to overrule the objection. Please proceed.
That your position had nothing to do with being a family friend of the Doncourts.
No.
You didn't have a family connection with the Doncourts?
Oh, I did. They were like the family I never had.
And this presumably caused resentment.
I'm not sure what you mean.
This could have caused resentment in the company.
Resentment. I mean, I brought up my injustices I felt were occurring with the company to like several times, but he just seemed super preoccupied and really dismissed my concerns. That's where I began to feel slightly betrayed, but there was no resentment before that point.
It is fair to say you expected Blake Doncourt to have your back.
I mean, yes, I think that it's important for him to trust his employees, don't you think? I mean, I brought up serious concerns within the company and he completely dismissed them.
Because on 2004 or early 2005, you went to Mr. Doncourt about filling margins and lies.
Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
Response?
Your Honor, a moment to confer with co-counsel.
Of course.
Your Honor, I feel that I have laid proper foundation. I've been talking about the relationship with Blake Doncourt for a couple questions now.
I agree. At this time, I'm going to overrule the objection and allow the question to stand. Please proceed.
Because in 2004 or early 2005, you went to Mr. Doncourt about feeling marginalized.
Like I previously said, I had several conversations with Blake Doncourt about serious concerns I had within the company and issues that were going on within management.
He told you were lucky to have your job.
That's true.
And you felt, I apologize. And later in 2005, you went to Mr. Doncourt's office again to ask him to run interference on your behalf with Gary Langley.
Yes, and he was completely preoccupied with other matters with going within the company, saying that there were issues at hand that he had to deal with, and all that I understand. But this was a serious concern I brought up, and so I knew that my future at Lush really wasn't going anywhere. And from that point on, I started looking for other jobs.
And he told you to grow up and do your job.
Yes, he did say that.
And you felt betrayed because Mr. Doncourt didn't interfere on your behalf.
Like I said, it was a little upsetting that someone who was once like my family would have done that, but I knew that I had to look for another job.
And this upset you?
Although it may have upset me, my reasons for looking at the job were based on opportunity and other opportunities elsewhere other than Lush.
To be clear with the jury, you were put on a performance improvement plan.
Yes.
And this was in response to numerous complaints about your job performance.
Like I said, I don't believe that this was an accurate representation of my work or fair at all, which is why I had to have those conversations you were referring to with Mr. Doncourt.
And it was because you were in the process of being fired.
I don't know if I was being in the process of fired. I was eventually let go, but at that point I'd already applied for another position because I knew that I wasn't being treated fairly at Lush.
Isn't it true it's just because you're bad at your job?
No, absolutely not. I am a hardworking employee and I work hard at my job. I know fertilizer well and I worked hard at Lush, so that's not true at all.
But you were not at the top of your class in college.
Who's at the top of their class? I worked hard. I did well enough for me. And was I an Ivy League graduate or number one? No, but I did well.
No further questions, Your Honor.
You don't care.
Is there a redirect at this time?
No redirect, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is there another witness for the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor. Plaintiff offers Dr. Casey Rogers, calls Dr. Casey Rogers.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Dr. Rogers. Can you please state your name and spell your last for the court?
Yes, hi, my name is Dr. Casey Rogers. That's Rogers.
What is your occupation?
Well, I'm currently a professor at UC Berkeley.
Have you been asked to leak some opinions in this case?
Yes, I have.
Have you leaked those opinions?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, let's first describe your background. Can you describe your education, please?
Of course. Well, I have my bachelor's in agriculture and chemistry from Colorado State. And then I have my PhD from UC Berkeley, which is where I currently work. That's in agriculture and entomology.
You said you were a professor. What classes do you teach?
Well, I currently teach 3 nice little courses, 2 on horticulture entomology, and then 1 on herbicide selectivity and action. My students like to say they're painfully intricate.
What other employment have you had?
Well, in the past, I worked as a research analyst for a large multinational company. Basically, I would compile research and present it to the company.
What kind of research are you currently involved in?
Well, my research interests focus on preventing harmful effects of chemicals on humans, pesticides, chemicals. That is my main focus.
Have you done any research on Drufo?
Yes, I have.
Can you go into some detail about those studies?
Of course. Well, I've written a few articles. I believe back in 2017, I wrote an article on Drufo toxicity and carcinogenity. And then I had 2 articles in 2019. 2019, evidence of multiple exposure to Drufo and human exposure to Drufo.
Dr. Rogers, have you ever testified as an expert witness?
No, I haven't, but my research has been used in litigation before.
You said you have a bachelor's of science and a PhD in agriculture. Would you consider Drufo an agricultural product?
Yes.
Your Honor, plaintiff offers Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert in the fields of potential exposure to horticultural chemicals, including DRUFO on humans.
Is there a response from the defense?
Your Honor, a brief voir dire.
Will be permitted. Please continue.
Dr. Rogers, you have no medical degrees.
No, I do not. I'm a scientist, research scientist.
Also, no medical training.
No, no medical training. I'm not a doctor.
You teach numerous courses.
Yes, I do. I'm employed at the university.
However, none of those courses have anything to do with pesticides or toxicology involving humans.
No, I do not teach any courses on it, but that is what my research focuses on. I don't teach it in class, but I do focus on it in my personal research.
And you have a research interest in toxicology, correct?
Yes, toxicology and mode of action on human subjects.
But having a research interest is not the same as having a degree?
No, I wouldn't say so, but I am a scientist with a degree, so I conduct these research studies under a practice hand.
Your Honor, we do object to this witness making any sort of medical testimony about non-Hodgkin's lymphoma since she does not have any medical degrees or medical training. And we also ask that she make very limited any sort of toxicology opinions due to the fact that it is just a research interest and nothing of the sort as a degree.
Is there a response from the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor. For someone to be classified as an expert witness, they either have to have knowledge, skill, education, experience, and training beyond what a normal lay witness would have. Dr. Rogers definitely has the experience needed to make these claims and talk about toxicity, as that's what her entire study has been on, the toxicity of DRUFO. That classifies her as an expert witness in there. Also, for medical testimony, her research has been on the mode of action of DRUFO. Therefore, she can talk about how it affects the body and its medical impacts because she has the experience and knowledge needed to talk about that.
I agree. This witness will be classified as a witness in toxicology of the agricultural uses of DRUFO, and you may proceed with your questioning.
I'd like to clarify, she's being admitted as an expert witness, correct?
Yes. However, we will limit her expertise to the agricultural uses of DRUFO, and we want to limit how much she is able to testify about any medical or internal medicine questions.
Dr. Rogers, you said you reached some opinions in this case. What are they?
Well, my opinion today in this case is that Ms. Weir's exposure.
Will you please repeat the objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Lack of foundation.
Response?
Your Honor, my first two questions of this direct were, Dr. Rogers, have you been asked to reach some opinions, and have you reached those opinions? And I believe that lays enough foundation to ask her what her opinions are.
Would you mind further questioning to lay a little further foundation as to how or why she has such opinions, and then proceed? The objection will be granted.
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Rogers, what is DRUFO?
Well, DRUFO is a fertilizer chemical used in Lush Fertilizers products.
Was it invented by Lush Fertilizer?
Yes, it was in 2003.
Is it in all Lush Fertilizer products?
Yes, and I've personally analyzed the products with a mass spectrometer. Lush has DRUFO in all of its products.
When did you first become concerned about DRUFO?
Well, when Drufo first came out on the market, I had many concerns about the product. I thought it was under-researched, and that's why I conducted my own study to determine what risks the product might pose.
About your own study, can you describe some of the procedures of your study?
Of course, well, my study had 3 groups. A control group, people who weren't exposed to Drufo at all, a moderate exposure group who were exposed to Drufo moderately, and a long-term exposure group who were exposed to Drufo on a daily basis.
What were the results of your study?
Well, my study showed a high increase of serious medical diagnoses, specifically cancer, in those who were exposed to Drufo over long periods of time.
Dr. Rogers, have you reviewed Ms. Wears' employment records?
Yes, I have, and her medical records for the case today.
From those, were you able to conclude what exposure group she would be classified under?
Yes, Ms. Weir's exposure is very similar to that of my long-term exposure group. She would have been exposed over a period of 4 some years.
Is non-Hodgkin, are you aware of what type of cancer Drufo causes?
Yes, that would be endocrine and exocrine-based cancers. That's what my study
Objection,
found.
Your Honor, outside the scope of expertise.
I'm going to allow it. Her expertise was also going to be as to the toxicology. I would ask for further foundation as to how she's aware of this, but we can move on. I'm going to overrule the objection.
Did you analyze the types of cancer that your subjects got in your study?
Yes, I did. We recognized 10 times higher increase in cancers and medical diagnoses in my long-term exposure group, which is what Ms. Weir's would be similar to. Because of this, I analyzed what types of cancers people had gotten because of exposure to the product.
So what type of cancer did Drufo cause?
Endocrine and exocrine-based cancers. Non-Hodgkin's was one that was seen more often.
Are you aware that that this is the type of cancer that Ms. Wears has?
Yes, I am.
Based on all of your analysis and your study, what is your opinion about Ms. Wears' exposure to Drufo?
Well, based on my study and Ms. Weir's similarities in that of my subjects, it shows me that Ms. Weir's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma was caused by exposure to Drufo over a long period of time with a certain degree of medical probability.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, but before I begin, may I inquire to my timekeeper as to how much time I have left?
3 minutes and 52 seconds.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, let's begin with your study. Your study was not a double-blind study?
Could you refer to what that means?
A double-blind study is a study that removes all bias from any sort of study.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that. There would have been no subject-based bias. My study just aimed to find if there were any increased risks in people who would have been using Drufo.
Dr. Rogers, am I correct in saying that you did not know what a double-blind study was before I asked this question?
It is not referenced in my witness statement, and no, I did not know.
Dr. Rogers, in your study, other substances were used, not just Drufo?
No, that's incorrect. My study measures Drufo. I'm unaware of whether other people could have been exposed to outside products, whether in their daily lives or through work, but my study focuses on Drufo only, not on other products.
However, there are multiple ingredients included with Drufo, correct?
No, Drufo is a chemical included as an ingredient in products. So Drufo is a singular chemical. There would have been no other ingredients in the chemical itself.
Not in the chemical, but in the fertilizers, correct?
Yes, there are usually multiple ingredients in chemicals, but my study focuses on the effects of Drufo itself, not on other outside chemicals included in the products.
Dr. Rogers, you would agree that non-Hodgkin's lymphoma pops up in people who have never come in contact with Drufo?
Yes, that is correct. However, I will state it's not a genetic disease. It can only be caused by outside factors.
And the survival rate for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is 72%?
Over a period of 5 years, yes, it is.
And it can be treated, however, never cured.
Objection,
Yes.
Your Honor. I believe you're on mute, Your Honor.
Please state your objection.
This is outside this witness's scope of expertise. We've already shown that she can't testify in a medical testimony, such as the treatment of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, so she shouldn't be asked questions about this.
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not asking about what the treatment is. I'm just asking if it can be treated. And as a toxicologist, she should know this.
I'm going to grant the objection. I think we did limit her expertise to not include medical diagnosis or internal medicine.
I'll move on, Your Honor. You made recommendations on Drufo, correct?
Yes, as a result of my study, I made recommendations to companies like I have in the past.
The recommendations required wearing long sleeves, jeans, some sort of long pants, and a mask.
Yes, based on the harmful findings in my study, I deemed these recommendations necessary.
But Dakota Weirs did none of that.
Well, Dakota wouldn't have heard of the recommendations in my study. I assume she could have seen them on the label as I saw, but the label does not warn of cancer. These recommendations are in lieu of my findings that Drufo might cause cancer.
However, you did hear her testify that it was a recommendation that her boss told her to wear them.
Yes, but I assume that my recommendations would have been unheard to Miss Weirs until today.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the plaintiff, do you have any further witnesses that you would like to call?
No, Your Honor.
The plaintiff rests at this
Plaintiff
time.
rests, Your Honor.
I'm going to now turn to the defense. Defense, are we ready to proceed with any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Blake Doncourt to the stand.
Please proceed.
Hello, Mr. Doncourt. Please state your name, spelling the last for record.
Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
What is your occupation?
I am the CEO of Lush Fertilizer Incorporated.
How long have you been with the company?
Since about 2000.
What is your company known for?
Well, we make fertilizer that then makes green grass that our customers proudly show off. I mean, after all, green grass is part of the American dream.
Does your company do anything to support the community?
We do. We have numerous charities that we support. 10% of our annual profits go to charities. One of them helps clean up the most polluted parts of our oceans. One of them also helps educate people on environmental problems and clean up things like that.
Have you won any awards?
We have. Lush won the Seal Sustainability Business Award, and I personally nominated for the United Nations Champions of Earth Award in 2020, but did not win it because of COVID.
Let's talk more about your product, Lush Fertilizer. What is it about Lush Fertilizer that is why we are here today?
Well, we're being falsely accused of having a known carcinogen in our product, and I assure you that's just not true.
Now I'd like to talk to you about the measures you put in place to make your product safe. Were there any concerns about the safety of Drufo?
Not that I knew about, both the EPA and our toxicology department at Lush did not find any reason for concern. There was absolutely no reason that we really should be concerned about the safety of our product.
And just to clarify for the jury, what does the EPA stand for?
The EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency. It's a U.S. government organization that helps protect the environment.
Okay. Let's talk more about your product. Were you required to put a warning label on your product?
We were not required to put a warning label on our product by any federal or state law, but we decided that we wanted our customers to be safe and extra cautious because there could be some risk in our product, as there could be with any fertilizer. So we put a safety recommendation label on it.
So could you please refer to Exhibit 1? And Your Honor, if you would allow, could my co-counsel share on with the share chat of Zoom?
Of course. Yes, please.
You mentioned the safety recommendation label. Is that the one shown on Exhibit 1?
Yes, this is.
And can you just clarify for the jury, since the print is kind of small, what does the user safety recommendations say?
It says to keep out of reach of children, but it also says that any spray fertilizer, you need to wear long sleeves, long pants, and gloves, and a N95 or respirator mask when using our product.
And what did you know about Drufo being carcinogenic?
Well, like I said, I really didn't know that it could have any, that it would have any concern. Like I said, the EPA and our toxicology department didn't find any reason for concern. So I didn't know about it like actually being carcinogenic, but like I said earlier, with any fertilizer, there is some risk.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that my witness is now looking at a copy of what has been pre-marked as Exhibit 8.
So reflected, and you may also display such. Has Exhibit 8 has been admitted already?
Not yet. I was just clarifying that my witness is now looking at that exhibit.
Yes.
Do you recognize this document?
I do.
Can you tell the jury what this is?
This is a profit table I made back in 2004 about comparing the cost of baking our product versus not baking our product.
Is it true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Well, as I made it, yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I move through the admission of Exhibit 8. Its authenticity has been stipulated to and its accuracy shown.
Is there a response from the plaintiff?
No objection, Your Honor.
The exhibit shall be admitted.
Your Honor, also at this time, could my co-counsel share on the screen Exhibit 8 for the jury?
Please.
You mentioned before that you do not bake your products. What would baking your products accomplish?
Well, the scientists say that it would make sure that there are absolutely no carcinogens in our product. But as you can see here, it's kind of expensive and nobody found that we needed to do it.
Since you did not spend this money as shown on the screen, what has this excess money helped you do for the environment?
Well, like I said, we donate profits to charities. So more money that we're not spending on needless things, well, then they can go to our oceans and actually do something important.
You're here today because of a lawsuit. What was your reaction to being sued?
I thought that it was absolutely ridiculous that we were being accused of having a carcinogen in our product. I assure you that's simply just not true. We are environmentalists at Lush, and that is not true. There's no way we would have a known or unknown carcinogen in our product. And the plaintiff's case is completely assumptions.
Thank you, Mr. Doncourt. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Duncourt. You are the CEO of Lush, correct?
Yeah.
And your toxicology expert performed a study, right?
Could you be more specific?
Your toxicology expert that you hired performed a study on Drufo, correct?
Well, I hire a lot of employees, so I would assume so.
Devin Williams led this specific research effort, correct?
Oh, yes.
Your only information about Drufo comes from your research and development team and Luscious Studies, right?
Well, I'm not a scientist, so yeah, I do pay them. So I do expect them to give me good research. They are very thorough in their research.
So are you saying that you don't believe independent studies are important before you put chemicals in the hands of consumers?
I don't believe that's ever what I said. I believe science is science, and our science and the EPA science proved that there was no reason for concern.
And it's also your testimony that it's a needless thing to use your that there's no carcinogenic risk in your fertilizer, correct?
Well, like I said, no one found that. So it's also like I could go burn $2.6 million in front of Lush's building. It would do the same thing as if I baked the product.
I want to clarify that you said no one at Lush found that, correct?
Well, or the EPA, which is independent.
All right, thank you. Now let's talk about what was left out. You never reviewed any other studies, did you?
I don't believe so, because that's what our toxicology department did already.
And you heard Carson Durst testify today, correct?
Yeah.
You did not know about the English study she testified about, which pointed to carcinogenic effects in adolescent animals before this case, did you?
No, nobody at Lush apparently knew about it because it was not in any report that I saw or anything like that. Even talking to my scientists, things like that did not happen. So I think that Carson, I don't know what happened with that. I do believe that I saw that that study. I did not see any reason for concern though, because that was on rats.
Now, you hire the research supervisors as CEO, right?
Well, yeah.
And therefore, to make a safe product, you would ensure that your research supervisor is reviewing all the important information, right?
Yeah.
And they would relay the important information to you, right?
Yes.
Mr. Duncourt, Lush conducted multiple studies on Drufo, didn't they?
Yeah, that's been established.
And you are aware that you were sent an email regarding a second study on Drufo.
Oh, you mean the manufactured email that Carson Durst provided? Yeah, I saw it, I guess.
All right, I want to direct your attention to Exhibit 4 in front of you. Look at paragraph 2 of the email for me. Okay. Following our lab's June Drufo study, concerns have arisen regarding generalized.
Objection.
Yes, what is your objection?
I do not believe the crossing attorney directed my witness to look at Exhibit 4 and it started reading information from it.
Response?
What is the objection, Your Honor?
The objection is that you are testifying and not questioning the witness, if I'm not mistaken, that is what the objection is.
Yes.
Your Honor, I am asking Blake Doncourt to testify that this is what the sentence says, as further questions will follow that build off of this statement from the exhibit.
Go ahead and proceed. I'm going to overrule the objection at this time.
So, Mr. Doncourt, paragraph 2 of the email says, following our lab's June Drufo study, concerns have arisen regarding generalized findings of potential carcinogenic qualities identified in samples. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah.
It states that you needed to perform a second study, correct?
Well, yes, because the first one was to see possibly carcinogenic things like the study that was done in England. That was what the focus of the first study was, to get information and things like that, so that if we needed to, we could do a second study into humans, which that study did not come up that it was carcinogenic in humans.
Look at the recipient list of Exhibit 4. That's your name in the recipient list, isn't it?
Yes, I do believe that is how it's spelled.
The importance of the email in Exhibit 4 is listed as high, yes or no?
Yeah.
If you receive an email marked as high importance, you would read it, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, of course.
All right, now let's talk about baking Drufo. You know what baking Drufo means, don't you?
Well, yeah, but since I'm not a scientist, I can't 100% testify to that because I'm supposed to be truthful. So I can't tell people that, oh, I know this for sure. It's just what my scientists say.
Isn't it true that if you bake Drufo, it would eliminate any carcinogenic effects?
Well, yeah, but like I said, I could also go burn $2.6 million and it would do the same thing because no one found that it was needed because our product.
I'm not asking about your opinions. Would baking Drufo eliminate any carcinogenic?
Objections, Your Honor.
Yes. What is your objection?
I'd request the opposing counsel would please let my witness finish their statement as it was answering their question.
Yes. You're asking for an instruction to the opposing counsel. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm asking that he would let my witness finish what he was saying.
May I respond, Your Honor?
Yes, please.
Your Honor, my question was asking specifically about baking Drufo and its carcinogenic effects, while Blake Doncourt went off on a tangent and was explaining his opinion on why they weren't baking Drufo. And I was specifically asking about the effects of baking Drufo.
Yes, of course. I'm going to overrule the objection, but I will give a limiting instruction that we are to ask a question and allow the witness to answer such question, unless, of course, the answer is objectionable or violates any of the rules of evidence. Please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. So, Mr. Doncourt, to clarify, baking Drufo eliminates any carcinogenic effects, correct?
Well, that's what the scientists say.
All right. And Lush doesn't bake it, do they?
No, we do not bake our products because it was a business decision.
You would agree that baking Drufo is costly, yes?
Well, yeah, that's what Exhibit 8 says. But also another reason, which was really the main reason, is it's really not needed.
Mr. Doncourt, I didn't ask about not baking Drufo. I asked whether baking Drufo is costly. Is that correct?
Well, yeah.
All right. When Lush decided not to bake it, cost was one of the reasons Lush decided not to bake Drufo, wasn't it?
Like I said previously, yes, but it wasn't the only reason.
And you even created the amortization table of Exhibit 8 for baking Drufo, didn't you?
Yes.
All right. I want to direct your attention to Exhibit 8 for me, please. This do you have it in front of you?
I do, yes.
This document shows how much revenue your company would lose if they had baked Drufo, correct?
Yes, it does.
And look at line 10. On the far right side of that line, the estimated overall revenue loss from 2004 through 2014 is $2,615,553, correct?
Yeah, but that money's not going to our oceans if I'm spending it on baking our product.
So that's how much money Lush saved by not baking Drufo, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
And you used that money to, and so by using that money to save the environment, you were putting the environment over safety, weren't you?
No, I would not say that because it was unneeded and it was not required and no one found that we needed to do that. We decided as a business that we would not bake our products so that that profit can go otherwhere.
But you needed the money to pay your investors, didn't you?
Well, we are a business, but I guess you could say that if you're looking at it in a certain perspective.
And your priority was making a profit for Lush, wasn't it?
Well, I am a businessman, so you also could say that, but if I was about making profits, why would we donate 10% of our annual profits to charities?
Mr. Doncourt, if Lush cared about safety, they would have warned its users, wouldn't they?
Well, we do have a safety recommendation label on our product, and as it was not required by state or federal law to put a warning label on our product.
Mr. Doncourt, if Lush's priority was safety, they would have baked the Drufo, wouldn't they?
Objection asked and answered.
Response?
Your Honor, this is a different question than the previously asked one. First, I asked whether they would have warned their users, and now I'm asking whether they have baked the Drufo. This is not asked and answered.
Is there a reply?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe he asked the same question twice, and I believe my witness has answered both of those questions quite efficiently. He's now just repeating himself.
I'm going to overrule the objection and allow the question to be re-asked and ask the witness to answer such question.
Mr. Doncourt, if Lush's priority was safety, they would have baked the Drufo, wouldn't they?
I guess you could look at that in a certain perspective and say yes, but our product was safe before. So why would we need to spend that money?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's proceed.
You stated that you would read an email marked high importance, but you also said that you didn't read that email. Why was that?
Well, I would read an email that was high importance, but I also did not read, well, I did read this email because of this court case, but I did not read it because it's manufactured by Carson Durst.
And you also mentioned that you didn't bake your product. What was the other reasons that you did not bake your product?
Well, like I said numerous times, it was unneeded and no one found any reason that we should. It also is kind of expensive, as you can see in Exhibit 8, but it also takes up space.
Opposing counsel asked you about money and stuff like that, and they've also mentioned stuff about you being greedy. What is your opinion on this?
About me being greedy?
Yeah, and their accusation of you only spending money.
Objection, Your Honor. This is outside of the scope of redirect.
I will allow it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, can you please re-ask the question?
Yes, they were accusing you of being greedy and spending money. What is your opinion on this?
I thought that it was kind of ridiculous. Like, I am an environmentalist. At Lush, we're all environmentalists. I really was trying to give money to those charities that we have. But also, I mean, I am a businessman, so I do kind of want money, but it's really not my driving factor in my life. Like, I value friendship and my family way more.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Is there any cross based on those questions?
No recross, Your Honor.
Thank you. This witness may be excused at this time. Defense, can you call your next witness, please?
The defense calls Skylar Weir to the stand.
Please proceed.
Please state your name, spelling the last for record.
Skylar Weirs, W-E-I-R-S.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old. I can't believe I made it to 20.
Do you have any siblings?
Yes, Dakota Weirs.
As in the plaintiff?
Totally, yes.
Why are you here today, Ms. Weirs?
I'm here to stand by my research and what I know to be true about Drufo.
Let's talk about your experience. What do you do for a living?
I'm an investigative journalist.
And who's your employer?
Rationalist Magazine.
What do they promote?
Rationalist Magazine is a nonprofit organization that is devoted to promoting rhetoric and jargon, as well as the resistance of the spread of pseudoscience.
Have you gone to college?
No, I have not, but you do not need a degree to research.
Have you published anything?
Yes, specifically, I have published an article questioning the narrative that there's a causal link between Drufo and cancer.
What did you research?
Well, I looked up various articles issued by agri-tech companies, as well as the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. My knowledge base consists of general knowledge as well as historical and statistical information.
How long did you research?
Just about 1 year.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Skylar Weirs as an expert in modern agri-tech as well as in investigative journalism, as she has shown the necessary experience and knowledge under Rule of Evidence 702.
Any response?
Yes, Your Honor. May I pursue a brief voir?
Yes, that shall be permitted.
Ms. Weirs, you're 20 years old, correct?
Yes, I am.
Your last actual form of education was high school.
Yes.
You have no college degree.
No, I do not. But actually, if you look at the facts and the amount of money I would have to spend to go to college to be what I am doing right now, it would just be not cost effective.
The only knowledge that you have on the matter at hand comes from articles that you've written and researched for, correct?
Actually, I also interviewed various agri-tech companies as well as not looking at the U.S. Department of Agriculture and what they had in their archives, and also the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture and what they had in their archive as well.
You would consider that research, correct?
Yes.
And you've only been doing that research under RUFO for less than a year?
Just about 1 year, but yes, less than a year.
And you've never conducted your own study?
No, I've not.
And you've never done research or conducted a study on your sister's specific situation?
No, I'm not, because technically you either have to be a toxicologist or an MD to do that, and I'm neither, so I don't understand why you're asking that, but.
Ms. Weirs, you haven't published any medical studies?
Again, I'm not an MD, so no, I have not.
You haven't researched for any medical studies?
Well, sorry, I'm trying to think, when you say medical, do you mean like medical as in like medical doctor, or do you mean like toxicology? Because I mean, when I did do the research on JUFO that had to deal with some type of toxicology, that was research.
Thank you, I'll clarify. You haven't done any research on any studies relating to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No, I have not.
And the articles that you have published go straight from you to the reader with no expert peer review, correct?
My editor reviews them.
But no expert?
That's above my pay grade.
On the articles that you have written, you don't specify the amount of articles that you have written relating to agri-tech, correct?
Correct.
Nor do you clarify how many agri-tech companies you have researched.
Well, that's confidential.
Can you name any specific studies that you've researched?
Again, that's all confidential information on the basis of the studies that I agreed to when I did interview the people and how I got my research. But most of it I did get from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, but I cannot recall any of the names.
In your own words, you have a general knowledge on the subject at hand, correct?
I said general knowledge as well as statistical and historical information.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. Your Honor, the plaintiff challenged the admission of Skylar Weirs as an expert witness regarding the agri-tech sector, as only spending a year reading articles published by other researchers does not prove that Ms. Weirs has any qualified knowledge or skill. Her part-time job as a magazine writer does not give her experience or training in the fields of science or medicine. Her high school education and lack of college degree prove no qualification through education. Under Rule 702, expert testimony is of scientific, technical, or specialized knowledge. Ms. Weirs has asserted she has no scientific or technical degree, training, or education, and the only knowledge she has is general. Additionally, Judge Saab's pretrial ruling requires that the witness provide an understandable explanation of her qualifications, including researching qualified agri-tech companies. Ms. Weirs cannot provide an understandable explanation or even recall the names of any qualified agri-tech companies, and therefore cannot testify as an expert in the area of agri-tech.
Response from the defense.
I believe this witness's experience and knowledge is more than the average juror, and therefore she should be entered as an expert because she provides not only her knowledge, but a different perspective on RUFO.
I will allow the
witness to testify as an expert, but limiting such expertise to the research of other studies in that it will bring about a limited amount of opinion or otherwise. Thank you. Please proceed.
Before we discuss your research, let's address something. Why might your credibility be questioned?
Well, currently I have a little bit of debt, and as now it is established that I am an expert witness, I do get paid for my testimony. So people could think that I have a bias because I am getting paid and because of that debt, but that is not true.
What does it mean if Dakota wins this lawsuit?
Well, it means that for Dakota and my dad, they would get money to help with Dakota's medical bills, and that would take a financial burden off of my dad and Dakota.
What is your relationship with your dad?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
Response?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm merely refuting the claim that she has a bias, a financial bias in this case.
By talking about her relationship with her father?
Yes, Your Honor, I am laying foundation. And my next few questions will outline the refuting the claim.
I'll let you proceed on a limited basis. Let's go a couple more questions, and if we are unable to get to a point where it is relevant, then I will ask that we move on.
What is your relationship with your dad?
Right now it's kind of rocky. He's mad because he had this money set up for me to go to college, and I decided not to do that. But I'm still his daughter. I'm still his baby girl. He hasn't disowned me, and if I would know that, he would take me out of the will. And as far as my knowledge, I haven't been taken out of the will, so I think there's room for improvement. Sorry.
I apologize. Would you say because you're still in the will, you could potentially get money if Dakota wins this lawsuit?
Sorry, I'm trying to think.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation. The witness is testifying as to what she believes her father would do with money from the lawsuit. She cannot testify to what her father would do in the future. She's speculating and guessing as to what his actions would be.
Response?
I feel my witness is making a reasonable inference.
The objection will be denied, but let's move forward.
Yes, Your Honor. Let's discuss your article. What does Drufo do?
Well, Drufo is a bonding agent.
Why is Drufo a good product?
Well, Drufo not only bonds to the plants, but it also bonds to the active ingredients, nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium. This then leads to there not being as much runoff.
Why is that important?
Well, it's important because with other fertilizers and luscious fertilizers, they can be applied a different amount of times to achieve the same result. Lush, you can apply once or twice a year, and other products 5 to 6 times a year, and you will get the exact same result.
How does that make Lush a better product?
Well, with them using Drufo, it means that certain carcinogens that can be that are used in other fertilizers and pesticides don't need to be included, and therefore, since there's no runoff, also it just is better for the environment, specifically the water and the soil.
Anything else you found in your research?
Well, because Drufo is such a good product, Lush does not need to include known carcinogens like glyphosate and arsenic.
What is the problem with those pesticides?
Well, although there has been no known causal link between Drufo and cancer, there has with those pesticides. The International Agency on Cancer categorizes arsenic as a carcinogen for humans, and it categorizes glyphosate as a possible carcinogen.
Have you reached a professional opinion on Drufo?
Yes, I have.
What is that professional opinion on Drufo?
Drufo is a revolutionary product and can be a game changer for currently used agricultural products. It can be a safe alternative. With the use of Drufo, the amount of nitrate used in the products can then be reduced, which would then be better for the environment.
Finally, is Drufo a carcinogen?
No, it is not. I have seen no study that has established that there's a causal link between Drufo and cancer, or that it's a carcinogen with any level of certainty.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, growing up, you shared a lot with your twin sister, correct?
Correct.
Your parents supported you both.
Yes. I mean, there were certain things that obviously they, well, with my mom's passing, my dad really wanted me to go to college, but I didn't want to go to college. And my mom was supportive of me not going to college, but my dad, not so much. But besides that, they were supportive of us both.
Specifically, they support Dakota, or your father supports Dakota with her medical debts, correct?
Yes, that he does help financially with Dakota's medical bills.
But he doesn't help you financially with your gambling debts, correct?
No, he does not. But also, I feel like it's a good opportunity to learn from my mistakes. It was a mistake, that debt, and I am currently trying to get out of that hole by myself.
One of the ways that you're trying to get out of that hole is by taking on a second job, correct?
Yes, at Applebee's.
You're angry at Dakota and your father, correct?
Actually, I'm not, and I don't like that you are trying to put words in my mouth. I'm not angry at either of them.
Your dad is spending all of his money on Dakota's treatment and isn't giving any to you, correct?
Correct, but I also have a job, and Dakota sadly cannot get a job to help out. Actually, I have two jobs, sorry.
Ms. Weirs, let's move on to your research. You claim to know all there is about a link between Drufo and cancer.
Can you clarify that, what you mean to know all is? Do you mean?
Based on your testimony that you've done all your research and that you are an expert in this field, that assumes that you know a lot about a link between a Drufo and cancer, correct?
I'm sorry. Do you mean, I'm confused because I don't understand what you're asking.
I'm going to move on, Ms. Weirs. The vast majority of your research is about GMOs, correct?
Yes.
But you've only ever published one article relating to Drufo.
Yes.
And even when you do write about Drufo, it's in the context of nitrogen and waterways and not in the context of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, correct?
Correct, because as you said, my research is basically based on GMOs, which is with agriculture. Therefore, that I would be talking about the effects that Drufo had on the environment, as well as other things and how it affects the environment.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. You mentioned that Drufo is a lot safer in comparison to other products. Can you name any of the other products that Haven Landscaping used?
I didn't work there. I'm allergic to grass, so I would not know.
So you don't know what your sister was exposed to?
No, I do not. I didn't work there, so I do not know the exact products that she used. I'm allergic to grass, therefore I could not participate.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. If you don't know the other products that your sister was exposed to, then the claim that your sister might have been at a greater risk if she hadn't been using Drufo is pure speculation, correct?
I don't believe I ever said that, but...
You just said that Drufo protects the user because they have to apply the other products at a much greater rate or a lesser rate with Drufo.
Actually, I said it was safer because unlike other fertilizers and pesticides, it does not have arsenic or glyphosate, which are known carcinogens.
You haven't conducted your own study on your sister's condition, yes or no?
No, I have not, because also I feel like that
Thank
could,
you, Ms. Spears.
if I did conduct a study as she is.
Objection, Your Honor. This witness is going outside the scope of the question. I've asked multiple questions, pursuing yes or no, and the witness continues to go on tangents outside of the scope of the question.
Response from the defense.
I believe my witness is asking the question, answering the question, and just not in the way that opposing counsel would like.
Your Honor, you're muted.
Yep, I apologize. I agree with that, and however, I would ask that the witness tailor the answers towards the questions that are actually answered without going above and beyond those answers.
Okay, I will try to do that, Your Honor.
Ms. Spears, you haven't conducted your own study on Lush fertilizer, yes or no?
No, I have not.
You haven't conducted your own study on the other products that Haven Landscaping used, yes or no?
No, I have not. That's not my job.
You haven't conducted your own study on the causal link between Drufo and cancer.
No, I have not. Again, that's not my job.
So your claim that the defendant, your twin sister's cancer, wasn't caused by Lush fertilizer is pure speculation.
I'm confused because you said the defendant and then my sister, so.
I apologize. The plaintiff, your sister.
Sorry, I'm trying to process because I still don't understand what you're asking.
For the sake of time, I'm going to move on. Drufo is an effective pesticide, correct?
Yes, it is. It's effective pesticide. Yes.
Virtually every commercial pesticide has carcinogens, correct?
Correct.
And non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is caused by exposure to pesticides, correct?
Not always. I don't certainly know like to the extent of it.
Ms. Spears, it's caused by exposure to environmental conditions, including pesticides, correct?
I know it's environmental. I don't know what to tell you. That's not my level of or field of expertise.
In your witness statement, it states, caused by exposure to environmental conditions, including pesticides, correct?
Yes.
You are certain that Drufo is a pesticide?
Yes.
And you are certain that pesticides cause cancer, correct?
Well, I think it depends on what's in the pesticide.
Thank you. No further questions.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Does your boss assign what you write?
Yes, they do.
Did your boss assign you to research non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No, she talked about
Objection, Your Honor. This is outside the scope of my cross-examination.
Your Honor, I believe these questions were asked during cross-examination as she was asking about my witness's employer.
I'll allow it.
I'll re-ask the question, Ms. Weers. Did your boss assign you to research non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No, she did not. My boss asked me to research that if there was or is a known causal link between Drufo and cancer.
Did your boss assign you to research your sister's case?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any recross?
No, Your Honor.
Let's call our next witness, if this witness can be excused.
Your Honor, the defense calls Dr. Devin Williams.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Dr. Williams. Please state your name, spelling the last for the record.
Dr. Devin Williams, W-I-L-L-I-A-M-S.
What is your current job?
Well, currently, I lead the toxicology research and development labs at Lush Fertilizer.
What does that mean for the purposes of the jury?
It means I'm a research toxicologist and by training.
How long have you worked at Lush?
I've worked at Lush in my current position for about 7 years, but overall I've been with the company for 10 years.
Let's talk a little bit about your educational background. What did you get your bachelor's degree in?
Well, I got my bachelor's degree in toxicology from Colorado State University. I am so sorry. I believe in my CV, it says I got it from the University of Utah. That is a mistake, and I promise I'll fix it for further in the future.
After obtaining your bachelor's degree, did you continue your education?
Of course. I later got my master's degree from Colorado State University in forensic toxicology.
Anything else?
Of course. Later, I got my PhD from Colorado State University in pharmacology and toxicology. And after that, I did a post-PhD program at the University of Utah in pharmatoxicology.
Dr. Williams, do you have any certifications?
Oh, I have many. I've been certified in 4 different states, including Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, and Utah.
What certifications did you receive in Colorado?
In Colorado, I've received certification from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environmental Laboratories in clinical and forensics toxicology.
What certifications did you receive in New Mexico?
From New Mexico, I have certification from New Mexico, State of New Mexico Board of Medical Examiners and Bioanalytical Laboratories Director.
What certifications did you receive in Wyoming?
In Wyoming, I received certifications from the State of Wyoming Agency of Healthcare Administration in toxicology.
What about certifications in Utah?
From Utah, I have certification from Utah Department of Public Health and Mental Hygiene in toxicology and drugs of abuse.
Do you have any other jobs beyond working at Lush?
I do. I currently am assistant professor at University of New Mexico in forensic toxicology.
What do you teach there exactly?
Currently, I teach 4 courses, forensic toxicology 1, forensic toxicology.
Your Honor, could we please stop time?
Yes.
I believe my witness's computer has died.
Your Honor, do you want the witness to use my computer since mine's still fine?
That would be great.
Okay, great.
I'm so sorry about that.
You're
No
all
problem.
good, Dr. Williams. Your Honor.
Can we restart our time now?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Sure.
I believe you were telling us what exactly you were teaching.
Oh, yes. I teach 4 courses, forensic toxicology 1, forensic toxicology 2, principles of forensic toxicology, and toxicology of environmental and occupational chemicals.
Have you taught anywhere else?
I have. I have been a visiting professor at Colorado State University since 2003, and I have also taught at the University of Colorado, Denver, and Chutma campus, and where I'm professor of toxicology and pathophiliology.
Beyond teaching and working at Lush, have you had any other jobs?
Yes, I have. I used to work as a toxicologist at LeMay County Chief Medical Examiner's Office.
What did that entail?
Job entailed me analyzing human samples taken from humans during an autopsy, where I would analyze them and see if drugs had any play in the deaths of the subject. I also studied where these chemicals originated from.
Have you published any scholarly articles on the effects of chemicals and toxins on mammals?
I have. So far, I've published 6.
Could you please direct your attention to Exhibit 9?
Of course.
Dr. Williams, what is this exhibit?
This is my CV.
How do you know?
Because I wrote it.
Is it true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Other than that one mistake that was mentioned earlier, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, I move to enter Exhibit 9 for its accuracy has been shown and authenticity stipulated to.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. This exhibit is cumulative under Rule 403. Dr. Williams can testify to anything on his CV. Admitting the CV itself is just a waste of time.
Any response from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. There are multiple things that I have not covered that are on the CV, therefore it is not cumulative.
Go ahead and proceed. I will allow it over objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, pursuant to Colorado Rule of Evidence 702, the defense moves to enter Dr. Williams as an expert in the fields of forensic toxicology and on Drufo.
Any objection from the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
We will enter that order that this is a expert witness. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Williams, what is Drufo?
Drufo is an ingredient in fertilizer used as a bonding agent.
Who is the owner of the patent to Drufo?
Lush Fertilizer both invented and owns the patent for Drufo.
Dr. Williams, is the fertilizers by Lush the same type of fertilizer that was used in the mid to late 1900s?
Oh, Lord, no. Without getting too much in detail, the fertilizer used in the mid to late 1900s is completely different. It was so horrible for the environment, it caused chemical runoff and a process known as eutrophication to occur.
What is eutrophication?
Well, to put it simply, eutrophication is a process that happens when fertilizer or pesticides are sprayed into a crop where they are later rushed. Chemical runoff causes them to go into a large body of water. Once there, they can cause algae to bloom, and which causes fish and certain other kinds of animals to die. This is also poisonous to humans and lead to the death of several.
What makes Lush fertilizers different then?
No, Lush uses Drufo, of course.
Why is Drufo important?
Drufo is important because it only needs to be sprayed onto the fertilizers, but once or twice a year. It also not only adheres the material, other active ingredients in the fertilizer to each other, but also to the plants and soil it's been sprayed on.
Why is that important?
Well, that's important because it limits the amount of environmental impact Drufo has. It prevents chemical runoff from occurring, well, mostly. And it's just better for the environment, for people, and for animals. Just all good, no bad.
Has Drufo been banned in any countries?
It has been banned in the European Union and several other countries. This is only because of the European Union's nitrate directive and not because of cancer risk.
Has it been banned by the US?
Of course not. The US does not just blindly follow what the EU does. It has its own process.
Has Drufo been banned specifically because of cancer risks?
Of course not. The only reason it's banned is because, again, the EU's nitrate directive, which done in laboratory settings, Drufo does fail because it releases more nitrates than the limit. But in actual settings that are actually therefore used in the environment, it is the test.
Let's talk a little bit about today's case. Have you heard of a study conducted by Dr. Casey Rogers?
I have.
What are your thoughts on this study?
Well, I'm not here to attack anyone. I have the utmost respect for any scientist, but there are several issues with Dr. Rogers' study.
Are all of these issues with the scientific method?
Yes, they are. Issues include the fact that it was not peer-reviewed, it was not replicated, and in their study, they compared farm laborers to arbor gardeners, which are two groups that are so different. It's like comparing apples to oranges and saying, they're both fruit. What's the difference?
Dr. Rogers, what is the purpose of the scientific method?
The perfect purpose of scientific method is to figure out the facts done in an experiment. If an experiment, then results give you facts that can be used.
So it is to prove facts, correct?
Yes.
And would you say that Dr. Rogers' study was basically assumptions?
Yes. I'm not here to attack her again, but it kind of was because of the things I mentioned earlier.
So to be clear, what actual causation is there between Drufo and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
There is none, absolutely none. It's statistically indifferent from a group who use Drufo than to some person who doesn't if they both develop non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. There's no correlation.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Good afternoon, Dr. Williams. You get paid by Lush Fertilizer, yes or no?
I work there. So yes,
Blake Donovan is your boss, correct?
he's CEO of the company.
You admit to having financial bias in this case, correct?
I do work for Lush Fertilizer, but if anyone has more financial bias, it'd be Dr. Rogers.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if you admit to having financial bias in this case, correct?
Everyone has financial bias in this case, even you do.
You know that if Lush finds that Drufo caused Dakota Wizard's cancer, it would have significant financial impacts on the company, correct?
It would, that's true.
You acknowledge that all fertilizers can be harmful, correct?
Every fertilizer can be harmful because of the ingredients they use, such as nitrogen, which again can cause many harmful effects to the environment. A Lush Fertilizer is not alone in this regard, but Drufo does greatly limit the amount of harmful chemicals that are produced into the environment, which means it is, in a way, safer than most others.
Even if the risk of Lush Fertilizer was small, Lush still could have warned its users, correct?
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out. Can you repeat that?
Even if the risk was small, Lush Fertilizer still could have warned its users, correct?
We did provide a user recommendation level, which is a form of warning the user. That
Lush Fertilizer could have easily included a label saying, warning, this product may be harmful to its users, correct?
Well, as was showed earlier, there was no need to because the EPA did show, and our own info study showed that there wasn't any risk of carcinogens. It was below the limit, so we didn't need to provide a warning label. It was just unnecessary.
But you did say that all fertilizers can be harmful?
Yes, but I also said Drufo limits the harmful effects of Lush Fertilizer.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Williams, why do you have some sort of financial bias in this case?
Because I worked for Lush Fertilizer.
Does working for Lush Fertilizer influence your testimony today?
Of course not. I'm only here to educate the jury, not provide my own bias.
Does being paid as an expert witness affect your testimony today?
No, it doesn't. Absolutely not.
Is Lush Fertilizer your only job?
No, it's not. I've done quite well for myself. I have numerous teaching degrees, and I've also worked at toxicologists and medical offices. If I wanted to, I could get a job basically anywhere.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross?
No, Your Honor.
At this time, this witness may be excused. Are there any further witnesses for the defense?
No, Your Honor. At this time, the defense rests.
Thank you. With both sides resting at this time, does the plaintiff request a closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor. Again, I would like to request any remaining time for rebuttal.
Of course. I will leave that up to the timekeeper. And you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and attention. Greed kills. The defense tried to convince you today that this trial is about putting assumptions over facts. It's not. It's about the overwhelming greed of Lush Fertilizer taking the life of Dakota Weirs. Looking at the evidence, Dakota Weirs' case comes down to responsibility. Ms. Weirs was responsible for spreading seed and fertilizer when she worked at Haven Landscaping. Lush Fertilizer was responsible for keeping its users safe. Lush Fertilizer failed this responsibility. It's the plaintiff's responsibility today to provide evidence and reasoning according to the law. Finally, it's your responsibility, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, to recognize the negligence of Lush Fertilizer, the fact that their greed kills, and bring justice for Dakota Weirs today. 6 years ago, 14-year-old Dakota Weirs was spreading seed and fertilizer at Havens like she did all the time. And at that time, Ms. Weirs felt fine, more than fine, actually. She was happy. She didn't know it yet, but she would get a scholarship to Juilliard and build a future doing what she loved, just playing the piano. She had her whole life ahead of her. Meanwhile, Blake Duncourt was relishing in the success of his company. 4 years later, Miss Weirs could barely stand. Just like that, her future was gone. Pursuant to jury instruction number 2, the plaintiff must prove negligence by showing you that 1, Lush Fertilizer manufactured Drufo. 2, they failed to reasonably prevent risk to those using the product in the expected manner. 3, that Dakota Weirs used said product. And 4, that Miss Weirs has damages because of Drufo. Now let's walk through these elements one at a time. Number 1, there's no dispute that Lush Fertilizer created Drufo. Number 2, Carson Durst was part of a Lush Fertilizer study and raised concerns with other members of the Lush Fertilizer team that Lush Fertilizer caused cancer. Blake Duncourt claims he didn't know if Drufo was carcinogenic or not. He knew his main product had a chance of causing cancer and he didn't look into it. He didn't care enough to read the results of Carson Durst's study. Now let's talk about the protective measures that Lush chose not to take. With their knowledge of Carson Durst's study and the carcinogenity of Drufo, all Lush had to do was add another line to their warning label. One line. It would have been cheap and easy, but they chose not to. This proves that Lush Fertilizer was negligent in failing to reasonably prevent risk. Number 3, Dakota Weirs did use Drufo, that's undisputed, but the defense would like you to believe that she didn't use it in the expected manner. However, because Lush failed to properly test and to warn their users, there is no expected manner in which Dakota could have been safe using Lush. Number 4, Drufo causes cancer. To dispute this fact, the defense is relying entirely on one study directed by Dr. Devin Williams. Although he openly testified to having a financial bias today in court. Additionally, his study was not peer-reviewed and he cannot detail the specifics of it. Although Dakota Weirs may have been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, it is the greed of Lush Fertilizer that will have killed her. Dr. Williams knows about the causal link between Drufo and cancer and still testifies. Her greed kills science. Skylar Weirs knows that her sister deserves justice. Her greed kills family. Blake Duncourt knew he was risking the lives of countless people when his company chose not to bake the Drufo. In his own words, not baking the Drufo was a business decision. That's greed, and it's killing Dakota Weirs. Lush Fertilizer may have failed their responsibility to Dakota Weirs, but it's not too late for you to fulfill your responsibility to her. Find for the plaintiff. Thank you.
Does the defense wish a closing statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, we are here today due to negligence. However, this negligence has not come from the defense. The product Lush Fertilizer is safe, and today we have shown this to you. The product was safe and tested as Dr. Devin Williams has testified to you. There was no legal need to put a warning label on the product as Blake Doncourt has told you. This product is safe and was entirely in regulation as Skylar Weirs has also testified to this, going as far to say about how it is safe for both the planet and the environment as a whole. The plaintiff has asked you to rule this case based upon assumptions. They ask you to believe the words of an ex-company worker with an axe to grind, as well as someone who has not worked for 16 years. The amount of things that have gone through Lush Fertilizer in 16 years that she could not even testify about today. The expert testimony of Dr. Casey Rogers is a scientist whose study has yet to be peer-reviewed, published, or replicated, all going against the scientific method, which could directly impact the results of her study. Dakota claims that Lush Fertilizer is responsible, but they have no testimony today from their general practitioner that confirms this. They only have the testimony of Dr. Casey Rogers, who can only assume that the plaintiff's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is caused by a Lush Fertilizer product. Once again, assuming. The plaintiff is asking you to speculate that their condition was caused by a Lush Fertilizer product, but they cannot confirm this information. Dakota Weirs is assuming that she has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma because of her job at Haven Landscaping, only because her twin sister did not work there either. The plaintiff has the burden of proof in today's case. They have to prove to you with a preponderance of evidence that 1, Lush Fertilizer manufactured a fertilizer product containing a chemical compound known as Drufo. 2, Lush Fertilizer was negligent by failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent the product from creating an unreasonable risk of harm to persons who might have reasonably been expected to use the product in the manner Lush Fertilizer might have reasonably expected. 3, the plaintiff was one of those persons Lush Fertilizer should have reasonably expected to use this product. And 4, the plaintiff had damages that were caused by Lush Fertilizer's negligence, while the product was being used in a manner Lush Fertilizer should have reasonably expected. And if the plaintiff cannot prove all 4 of these statements, your verdict must be with the defense. The plaintiff cannot prove that they were among the people that Lush Fertilizer reasonably expected to use the product. As you've seen earlier, the product label on Lush Fertilizer package contains the words, "Keep out of the reach of children." And Dakota Weirs has testified today that she was in fact a child, all while using this product. Dakota Weirs was a child, and therefore she should not have been using this product. So therefore, Lush Fertilizer cannot be held responsible for the misguided actions of a kid who wasn't supposed to be using the product in the first place. Along with that, Lush Fertilizer has reasonably expected that the products be used by a person wearing long sleeves, pants, and gloves. This can be seen in the proper use label that is included on the product that the plaintiff used. And as the plaintiff admits, they did not wear long sleeves, pants, or gloves while using this product, all because it was too hot outside. Lush Fertilizer also properly exercised reasonable care to prevent their product from creating an unreasonable risk of harm. Besides the proper use label that's included on the product, defense has also tested their product to determine its safety. Members of the jury, the plaintiff has said that greed kills. However, Dakota Weirs has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of cancer that has terrible side effects, and we feel for that. However, it is survivable with a 72% survival rate. They also accused Mr. Doncourt of being a greedy man. Would a greedy man donate 10% of his profits every year to charities? Your Honor, the defense feels awful about the plaintiff's condition, but the defense at the end of the day is not the one responsible here. At the end of the day, we may never know what caused their cancer, but we do know that it was not a Lush Fertilizer Incorporated product. Members of the jury, we ask you to go with the facts, not the assumptions of this case. So we ask you to return with a verdict of not negligent for the defense. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. There was some remaining time for the plaintiff. Would you like to use that time at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant claims that Carson Durst's testimony isn't valid because she has not worked with Lush for 16 years. This case doesn't concern Lush's development within the past 16 years. It concerns the creation of Drufo and testing, which was 16 years ago when Ms. Durst was present. The defendant claims that Ms. Weirs was a child when using Lush, so they could not have expected her to be using the product. She was not a child, she was a teenager, and age has nothing to do with her diagnosis. She has to endure suffering as her daily routine. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. That concludes the matter. And I'm not sure what we do from here, but I assume that the scorekeepers and judges will conduct that, and I hope someone else leads this. I just wanted to real quick say that it looked to me like both sides had spent a great deal of effort in preparing this, especially the witnesses and the attorneys, and it was really nice to see this professionalism. I hope you all proceed through. Thank you.
All right, yeah, scorers, if you want to work on your score sheets and then hit submit, I'll let you know when everybody's sheets are in, and then you can give some critique.
You're muted.
I have 2 of the 4 score sheets. So Kathy and Susan, when you're done, just hit submit and then
I need the code, the team codes.
So Jim was plaintiff and Michael was defense.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Then I'm done and you'll have in a second.
Perfect.
Okay.
Really quickly, while there's no super talking going on really fast, I would just like to say thank you on behalf of both teams for sitting through this for 2.5 hours. We know it can be long and tedious, but we are super excited to have gotten to show what we've worked on for so many months. So just thank you to the judges and Mr. Cabral as well. So thank you just so much.
The pleasure was mine for sure.
I enjoyed watching all of you, and it's amazing how good you are. I'm really impressed with both sides of this case.
Kathy, have you submitted yet?
I'm having I'm having problems where it's erasing some of my or eliminating some of my entries. So I think I'm down to where it just eliminated the name of the first defense witness. Can somebody just help me fill that in like really quickly?
First defense.
Defense first witness.
Dakota Weirs. No, that's plaintiffs. Never mind. Sorry.
Right.
No,
I think it was one of the doctors, and I'm think
the first
defense
witness.
That was Blake. Yes, it was.
Blake.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I put in entries and then it would back them out. Okay. I just hit submit. Did it come through? I'm sorry. I don't mean to be the problem child here.
No, you're good. Give it 1 second here. Yes, got it. You guys are good to go.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, everyone.
Is there some way we can watch the finals if we're not involved in judging it tomorrow? You're muted.
Sorry. We will email out the live stream link to all of the scoring panelists if you want to watch.
Okay. Be fun to see.
All right, you guys are good to give your comments, and then let these guys hopefully get a snack or something in between.
So this is Eric Hohenegger. I can't turn my camera on for some reason, but I'll go first because I have a hearing at 3. So yeah, I mean, I was very impressed by everybody. This was a close one. It was a good way to start it. For me, I've done it 2 other years. That is be a member of the jury for two years. So I'll go quick. The gym team, I thought that the closing was pretty much perfect. I mean, it's a great story, very emotional, good delivery. Very impressed with that. I think that the knowledge of the rules of evidence as well from the gym team, really from both teams, surprised me. I have notes for everybody, but I don't really have time to go through these. So I'll just say that was the high point for me for Jim, just putting a cap on everything and sealing it up, and it was fantastic. Your witness, Carson Durst, knew the facts, fought back, had great composure, very believable, very professional. So those were the two highlights for me. I've got a bunch of things. Again, sorry, I don't have time. Michael would be, I think for me that the highlight of that was the objections initially in the first witness. You just kept them coming and they were all valid. The voir dire bias question really threw me. I haven't done that before in voir dire. I typically only focus on qualifications of the expert. I don't go into bias. So I'll have to consider that. I thought that was very interesting. And then as far as witness, the Skylar witness, I loved the edginess and the realness, and it sounded like she was having fun with it. So very, very believable. She got a little caught up in some of the facts there for a while, but overall that was a highlight. Again, kind of woke me up and got me more involved in the case. So thank you guys very much, and good luck moving forward.
So I have quite a bit of feedback. So I was thinking maybe I would hold back and go last. Your Honor, I'm not sure if you wanted to provide feedback first. I think we've lost another one of our scoring judges, but I see that Susan is still on. So
Here,
if you wanted to go, I'm fine with that.
I'm here. I don't know why I'm not showing up.
No, so yeah. So I see that you're here. I think that we've lost Kathy.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Sure, if Susan would like to go.
I'll go. First of all, I was impressed with basically all of you. I mean, I think, excuse me, for a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds, you are really worked yourself into professionalism. I mean, for me, it has been a pleasure to watch what all of you are doing. I think there are certainly some highlights. I was impressed by Andrew, you being able to cite rules of evidence. Something that most lawyers on their feet in a courtroom can't do. That was one thing that I kind of sat here and went, oh. I think all of you did great jobs as witnesses. I think most of the witnesses, for the most part, were emotive in one way or another, which to me is a good thing. You don't want to sit on a witness stand and have a blank expression on your face the entire time that you're sitting there, and whether you're addressing your own counsel or whether you're addressing your opposing counsel. It's not something you just sit there and stone-faced do. I mean, You need to express yourself, and you did that. Let me just check back here real quick. I was writing notes the whole time. I thought both of you had good opening arguments. I think you both had excellent closing arguments. If we were a real jury, I have no idea where we'd be going on this in a matter of substance. I'm not talking about us judging your performances. But I think you both presented the facts of your case extremely well. And I know only one of you can go on. And it's a shame that one of you has to be eliminated at this point. Because I think both of you were really, really good. And this is the third or fourth year I've done this. And without a doubt, the quality of your performance outweighs, certainly outshatters the ones that I've done previously. You guys are just really good. And I commend you. And I hope that whichever one of you moves on can keep moving on. So bravo to all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Fletch.
You're welcome.
Ms. Hamburg, would you like to proceed with yours?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would. So what I'm going to do is give feedback starting from the top of the presentation, starting with the openings, and then go through in order so that I hit all of you. I do know we're running out of time, so I will try to keep it relatively brief. But I've been involved with mock trial starting when I was in high school, and I've been involved since then at the undergraduate and law school levels. So I've been doing this for a long time, and your performances were very, very impressive. I've done coaching, and you guys are just, really fantastic. And I see a few familiar faces from last year, so I'm glad that you all have advanced at least 2 years in a row. So for the opening, Andrew, I thought you did a great job, really good theme, a good setup in terms of what you would expect in terms of hearing from each witness, a really good job of framing the issue so that we know what we're looking for, and then introducing the burden of proof so that we could sort of keep that in mind as you went through with your witnesses. So I thought you did a great job there. Caleb, in terms of your opening, I thought that you also had a good theme, and I liked how you introduced the burden of proof as well so that we could be listening for that as well. So really nice job, both of you. Leah, your direct was great. I thought that, you have a very strong and confident personality, but you didn't sort of let that sort of overshadow your witness, which is exactly what you want for a direct. So that was great. Octavia, you were so believable, very, witness. And, in the response that you had on cross, the fact that you're just a kid, you're just, this is what your employer is telling you to do. All of your responses basically were very compelling. So I think you did a nice job of holding up on defense. Asia, I thought you had a good demeanor in terms of handling this witness. Sometimes depending on the witness, you just have to change your demeanor. And I thought you did a really nice job of handling a more emotional and sympathetic witness. I also think you did a really nice job of, pointing out that she wasn't exactly doing what she was supposed to be doing. And, you had generally an effective line of questioning. So nice job there. Andrew, in terms of your direct examination, I think you did a great job with laying some foundation, good responses regarding the rat study. The fact that, you didn't feel like you had to do a redirect, I think was definitely the right move. Some students feel that they have to, and you definitely don't. So I thought you did a really nice job there. In terms of the cross-examination, Caleb, the hearsay objection and the cumulative went fairly well. I think you raised some interesting issues as well. And then the witness, Ella, you did a really nice job in terms of, holding your own, of making sure that, you were compelling and you knew your statement and your facts. So I think you did a really nice job there and were a very believable witness. So good job there. So Braden, on your witness examination, I thought you did a really nice job in terms of, why this was an expert. I thought you had a great response regarding the toxicity and, the mode of action in terms of medical testing. So I thought you did a really, really nice job there. And when you were asked to lay further foundation, you didn't stumble or, get confused or, anything like that. So you did a really, really nice job in terms of responding to the objections and not becoming flustered. So very unflappable, which is exactly what you want to see. So I thought you did a great job there. And then for our Dr. Casey or Maisie, you did a really nice job with that. Very compelling, again, very believable, really high marks for that. I thought that, you were just a very compelling expert witness and had the type of demeanor that you would expect to see for an expert. So nice job there. Should I, I know I'm taking up a lot of time. So I'll try to move through this a bit more quickly. But Sydney, you did a great job with your direct, is that right? Anyways, so the voir dire was great for that. Sorry, Sydney, this was the cross. So you did a great job for the voir dire. I thought that was really effective. The fact that, she didn't have, the whole list of things that you might expect to see in an expert. So very effective there, good demeanor there. And I thought you just did a really nice job of handling that witness. So Asia, your direct was great. Again, you have a really good direct demeanor. You didn't lead the witness, and I thought you asked really effective questions. I had a really great time and was glad that I was off video for this because Chris, you are really funny. I don't know if that's, your accent or not, or if that was assumed for this character, but regardless, it was really fun, engaging. You were likable, but you also had an attitude, which I personally found enjoyable and was one of the more entertaining parts of this. So I really liked that. And I felt that you were believable. Like I could totally see you as the CEO of this chemical company. So, I thought you did a great job. And you were really, you handled your cross effectively. Andrew, I know that this was probably a tough witness to cross, but you did a really great job. You didn't let him get under your skin, which, some people probably would have. So I thought that was really good. And again, you were just very even tempered. You asked really good questions and you really didn't sort of take some of the bait that he put out there. So really nice job with that. Very effective cross. So for our second witness, Caleb, you did a really nice job in terms of laying the foundation for why she would be an expert. This was a tough one. Like, if this was real life, she wouldn't be admitted. But since it's mock trial, it was, you do what you can. But I thought you did a nice job also heading off some of those questions about her financial interests. So, the decision to hide something versus, coming out front with it, I think you made the right call there. And Josie, I thought you were very believable. Like, I totally see you as like some 20-year-old journalist who's just, got a little bit flustered on some of those hard-hitting questions from Leah, but it was within your character. So I liked that. So I thought it was really well done. And like I said, really believable. You had some really good comebacks that I would totally see from, a 20-year-old who's, getting started in the world. And so I thought it was very, very good and within character. Leah, great voir dire, really hard-hitting questions, and you're asking the right questions, sort of like steamrolling through, which I thought was very effective, and a really good explanation of why she wouldn't qualify as an expert, and good objections. And I liked particularly the speculation issue that came up that you addressed well. Sydney, you did a great job with foundation, laying in terms of our expertise or education. This is exactly like textbook in terms of how you would lay foundation for an expert. So I thought you did a really good job on that. Sierra, I thought you did a great job as this witness. You had, just a calm demeanor and a great understanding of the contents of your statement. So I thought that was great. And Braden, I think that you did a really nice job sort of highlighting some of the issues. It's always hard, oftentimes, to cross-examine experts, but I think you did an effective job. For closing, Leah, really great job. The theme was so prominent, and I think you did a really nice job of just weaving that in throughout. And then the fact that, you went through and improved your legal burden of proof, I think you did a really nice job with that. And Sydney, for your closing, you did a really effective job at picking apart the plaintiff's witnesses, which can be really hard, but you did a very effective job of that and just outlining, sort of the negligence of the plaintiff. So sorry to take forever, but I do know it's nice for everyone to receive feedback. So I just thank you, Your Honor, for indulging me.
No problem. I'm going to take 30 seconds to give kind of just an overview. The theme of my response is going to be time. One, I want to make sure and thank the timekeepers. You guys did a great job of putting that in the chat, and I think that was very effective. The timing of what's going on with the world and COVID and so forth, you guys all did very well using electronics to make this happen. I hope that we're able to get back into the courtroom soon so that all of you can participate in that sort of way. As far as timing of what you guys are accomplishing, many attorneys that come out of law school don't see the inside of a courtroom for the first 5, sometimes even 10 years. And so what you guys have all accomplished in the limited amount of time that you've had was incredible. The witnesses, obviously, you guys took a lot of time to review the matters, know the facts, and know how you were doing. And the attorneys, of course, to take these issues, digest them down, get down to the brass facts, and present that in a cohesive, quick statement was very impressive. The way that you guys dealt with on your feet with objections and questions, I think was great as well. So I wish you all the best of luck. As maybe you could not glean from the attorneys that have talked to you, we've worked really hard to get to where we're at, and to see someone who also pays attention to where we are and hopefully follows in the path of becoming attorneys is remarkable and kind of rebirthing of us and regenerates us to why we started this path in the first place. So I want to thank you all and appreciate all the time and attention that you put into this, and very impressive. Thank you. So I wish you all the best of luck, and I think we're all going to leave at the same time, right?